From its opening moments, The Last of Us Part 2 is unflinching in its portrayal of violence, and I found myself completely captivated by it.
Please, don't.
Joel, fucking get up! Please stop! Please don't shoot!
The game masterfully utilizes its brutal combat to immerse players directly into Ellie and Abby's visceral journeys. It's not just violence, but violence that teaches a lesson. Many people say that The Last of Us Part 2 is all about revenge, and that certainly plays a part. What I hope to shed a light on, however, is that more importantly, the game is also a raw exploration of grief, forgiveness, purpose, love, parental influence, and not getting to say goodbye. That last one in particular ended up being deeply personal for me, as I wasn't able to say goodbye to my mom before she passed away. Does The Last of Us Part 2 have flaws? Absolutely. However, my criticisms of the game's narrative aren't rooted in any of its controversies, like the decision to kill the fan-favorite protagonist of the first game, Joel, early on, or that we are required to later play as his killer in the second half of the game. In fact, I believe that it's these difficult narrative moments that lead to the incredible payoff for the themes and story being told. Regardless of your personal feelings for these narrative decisions, we likely can agree that we don't get many games like this. With this level of environmental design, world cohesion, visual polish, voice acting, animations, story, gameplay synergy, and yes, an attempt at a complex, deeper story. The game should be praised even if it's not perfect. That's what this video is about, explaining why the vast majority of those narrative and gameplay decisions worked for me, and also honestly examining the few that didn't. If you haven't played The Last of Us Part 2 and something that I've said has you intrigued, I would caution you against watching this video. Even knowing the big narrative choice to kill Joel, this game still has many more surprises, many that are even better in my opinion. On the other hand, if you have no desire to actually play the game, or just enjoy watching videos that function both as an analysis as well as a summary, then this video will work for you. It's written so even with no experience with either game, you'll still be able to understand the narrative and larger messages. Okay, thesis communicated, spoiler warning issued, so let's go. The Last of Us Part 2 was developed by Naughty Dog and released in June of 2020, which is almost exactly 7 years to the day after the release of the original game. They missed the actual anniversary by about 5 days. The first game is widely regarded as one of the best games ever made, and I agree with this, although as I've hinted at, I think Part 2 ultimately tops it. The series is focused on two characters, Joel and Ellie, who are survivors in a post-apocalyptic United States after it and the world have been ravaged by a mutated version of the cordyceps fungus. Individuals infected by the fungus effectively turn into zombies that slowly evolve into more advanced stages as time passes. Calling the cordyceps simple zombies, though, does a severe disservice to them as they're a fully developed and unique concept that the universe is built around, rather than just a reskin of something you'd see in The Walking Dead or Resident Evil. The fungal infection was particularly effective at decimating humanity due to how it spread, both through bites from infected individuals, but also from breathing in airborne spores that can be found in nest sites. Over the course of the series, we see 5 stages of the cordyceps infection evolution, caused by age of infection as well as environmental factors. The infected can't decompose because the cordyceps replace the body's organic matter with more fungi, so in theory this allows for continuously new forms to evolve. I love all this because it adds a layer of lore and grounded ecology to the infected. Now, similar to something like The Walking Dead, the cordyceps infection is largely a tool for telling a story rather than the story itself. It's a dangerous factor for the survivors in the world to deal with. It's those remaining people attempting to survive in the world that are the primary focus. The lives they live, the problems they have, the choices they make. A big part of both games is interacting with other individuals or groups and learning how they survive. The other humans in The Last of Us are often just as scary, if not more so, than the infected. It's violence that's more calculated rather than instinctual, and getting glimpses into the other human communities is just as interesting as the ecology of the infected. The fleshing out of these human communities is something that Part 2 spends more time on. While we meet other characters over the course of the first game, they're micro-stories that are present for a chapter or two and then leave, often violently. This is because Part 1 is Joel and Ellie's story, the story of two strangers journeying across the United States together and the father-daughter relationship that slowly forms between them. The side characters they meet along the way serve to reflect, test, and strengthen the bond between Joel and Ellie. Part 2, because it's set in one city, Seattle, Washington, for the vast majority of its runtime, is able to go deeper, adding more texture to the side characters and factions present in that story. The Ellie half of the game gives the player more time with side characters who are all well written and likable, whereas the Abby half gives a much deeper understanding of the two factions fighting over Seattle. In Part 2, the story is bigger than two people, and because of that, it makes complete sense to me the direction that the narrative takes. The first game is about Joel rediscovering that he could love someone again after losing his daughter at the beginning of the outbreak. After her death, Joel is emotionally broken and as such becomes hardened to the world, doing what he has to in order to survive. When we pick up playing as him, he's operating out of Boston as a smuggler and gets hired by a rebel militia/terrorist group known as the Fireflies. Their leader, Marlene, originally just wants Joel and his partner to escort a young girl out of Boston's quarantine zone, but this evolves into a full trek across the United States after learning that the girl, Ellie, is immune to the cordyceps infection.
Give me your arm. This was 3 weeks. I was bitten an hour ago and it's already worse. This is fucking real, Joel.
The road is hard, filled with loss and violence, but as the journey progresses, we see Joel and Ellie not just warm up to each other, but actually come to rely on each other. This transition occurs naturally and is authentically believable. Prior to this, I had never felt protective over a video game character before, but if you have a crumb of empathy, then the game expertly draws these feelings out of you. You slowly become attached to Ellie throughout the journey, just as Joel does. This is then put to the test when the pair reach their destination, the St. Mary's Hospital in Salt Lake City, Utah, which is a base for the Fireflies.
Take me to her.
You don't have to worry about her anymore. We'll take care
I
of her.
worry. Just let me see her, please.
You can't. She's being prepped for surgery.
The hell do you mean, surgery?
The doctors tell me the cordyceps, the growth inside her, has somehow mutated. It's why she's immune. Once they remove it, they'll be able to reverse engineer a vaccine. A vaccine.
But it grows all over the brain.
It does.
Find someone else.
There is no one else.
Listen, you were gonna show me where...
Stop. I get it. But whatever it is you think you're going through right now is nothing to what I have been through. I knew her since she was born. I promised your mother I would look after her.
Then why are you letting this happen?
Because this isn't about me, or even her. There is no other choice here.
Yeah, you keep telling yourself that bullshit.
March him out of here. He tries anything, shoot him.
What the fuck are you doing? Keep walking. I said keep walking. Where is the operating room? I ain't got time for this. Where? Where? Top floor, the far end.
As I said, the first game is about Joel rediscovering that he could love someone again, and in the end, he is willing to sacrifice humanity's potential cure for the cordyceps infection in order to hold on to the love that he's found. He violently guns down many of the Fireflies, including their leader Marlene, kills the doctor in charge of the operation, and lies to Ellie about what went down. The epilogue sees them return to Joel's brother Tommy's settlement in Jackson, Wyoming, and the game ends with Ellie revealing to Joel how she got bit and asking him to be honest about what happened at the hospital.
Back when I was bitten, I wasn't alone. My best friend was there, and she got bit too. We didn't know what to do. So, she says, let's just wait it out. You know, we can be all poetic and just lose our minds together. I'm still waiting for my turn.
Ellie.
Her name was Riley, and she was the first to die. And then it was Tess. And then Sam.
None of that is on you.
You don't understand.
I struggled for a long time with surviving. And you... No matter what, you keep finding something to fight for. Now, I know that's not what you want to hear right now.
Swear to me. Swear to me that everything that you've said about the Fireflies is true.
I swear.
There's this lingering shot on Ellie's face, which I always took to be her knowing that Joel is lying, but accepting it. She says okay, and it cuts to black. The game ends. It's my understanding that Neil Druckmann, the series' co-lead and co-writer, has stated that their intent when writing the ending was that ultimately a cure developed from Ellie's infection would have come out of this. And so Joel really is dooming humanity for his own selfish reasons. For me personally, there's still some viability questions there, even if there was a cure. Like, are the Fireflies equipped to mass produce and distribute a cure globally? Or would the creation of a cure simply lead to more conflict as communities attempted to gain control over it? Regardless, I want to return to the word selfish. I do truly believe Joel is being selfish, and that's a good thing. I agree with Joel's decision. Every time I play the game, I'm right there with him. I'm not letting these people take Ellie. For Joel, her life is infinitely more valuable than any theoretical cure. He made the emotionally correct decision, but he also made the morally wrong decision. These can both be true. You can agree with Joel's actions, yet they can still be wrong. Even if a cure isn't guaranteed like Druckmann suggests, and even if the Fireflies can't be trusted, Joel's actions are still wrong in my opinion, because he's disregarding Ellie's ability to make this choice for herself. The Fireflies also don't give Ellie the choice either, but that doesn't make Joel's decision suddenly right. This is because while leaving the hospital, Joel is confronted with the fact that Ellie likely would have wanted the surgery to go through and to have sacrificed herself for even a chance at a cure. This becomes a crucial point for the second game, that Joel saved Ellie more for himself than her, and that he committed horrific violence out of love for her. I would suspect this is what some people don't like about the second game, being judged by the same character they previously saved. Part 2 continues to examine this choice, adding additional layers, making it more difficult to judge if it is correct or not. What's more important here, though, is that this is the correct choice for Joel the character. It completes his story arc and is consistent with the type of person we've come to see him as well as the person he is becoming. The ending for Part 1 is so impactful in my opinion because of how morally ambiguous it is and because so many people have different opinions on it. It's about what you personally think is right or wrong. Joel has rediscovered love, but in that final moment when he lies to Ellie, he doesn't realize that the extreme violence he used to protect that love will cost him. Joel himself recognizes in the hospital's garage that he can't leave Marlene alive because her and the Fireflies would come looking for Ellie. Unfortunately, he's focused on the wrong thing here. Former Fireflies do come looking for someone. But it's him rather than Ellie because of his actions at the hospital. It's Shakespearean and is the catalyst for the events that occur in Part 2. The sequel picks up shortly after Joel and Ellie returned to Jackson, and it specifically emphasizes the importance of the first game's ending by starting with Joel recounting what he did for his brother Tommy.
You found the Firefly. Because of her, they were actually going to make a cure. The only catch, it would kill her. Sweet Jesus.
Doctor?
What are you doing? I won't let you take her. This is our future. Think of all the lives we'll save.
Jesus Christ, Joel. What do you do?
I saved her.
Once back in Jackson, Tommy reassures Joel that he made the right choice, although you can feel tension between them that suggests Tommy is likely uncomfortable with what his brother did. Joel continues on to see Ellie, who has set up her own living space in his garage. Things are a bit awkward between them as well, but I don't think it's just because of their conversation from the end of the first game. Joel and Ellie's entire relationship up to Jackson has been one of survival, and here it feels much more like a father and daughter adjusting to what a semi-normal life looks like together. Joel brings Ellie a guitar as a gift, promising to teach her how to play, which is a callback to the first game. He briefly plays Pearl Jam's Future Days for her, and the awkwardness between the pair, at least for the moment, disappears. This scene is important because it establishes several pieces of imagery that will carry through the game. Ellie learned how to play guitar from Joel. It's something that connects them together, and the guitar is a symbol of that. The first song she hears him play is quite on the nose about his choice at the end of the first game.
If I ever were to lose you, I'd surely lose myself.
However, we'll see that the song also applies to Ellie, who plays parts of it throughout the game and for a while loses herself to violence after Joel is murdered. There's even potentially meta-level symbolism with the song choice, as the band Pearl Jam is from Seattle, which is where the majority of the game takes place, but this might be reading into it too much. We get a time jump to 4 years later and see Ellie woken up by knocking at her door. This opening bit is about introducing two side characters, Jesse and Dina. These two remind me a lot of Elena and Sully from the Uncharted series in that Ellie sees the consequences of her actions through these characters, similar to how Nate does with his friends. They're the emotional glue. Dina is Ellie's girlfriend. She's calm and collected, not only understanding Ellie's need for vengeance, but goes along with her to Seattle as backup. It's actually Dina that usually figures out the next steps in their plan once in Seattle. Now with Jesse, what I'm about to say sounds basic, but he's just a charming good guy. He without hesitation follows Ellie and Dina to Seattle to help, but also calls Ellie out on her reckless behavior. He's thoughtful and truly cares about his friends even when he disagrees with them. This intro section in Jackson introduces Dina and Jesse, establishes their relationships to Ellie as well as to each other. Dina and Jesse were previously dating but recently broke up. At a town function the evening prior, Dina kisses Ellie, which makes an older man in the town angry.
She kissed me. It was just Dina being Dina. She didn't mean anything by it.
I was talking about your fight with Seth. Wait. You kissed Dina?
Oh. I thought this...
We're broken up 1 week and you make a move on my girl?
No. She was probably just trying to make you jealous. I would never... Fuck, this is awkward.
I'm messing with you, man. I don't care. Get dressed.
You're the worst.
It's kind of fucked up you did that.
The style of Jesse's teasing made him right away likable for me, but I was nonetheless initially worried this was creating a love triangle that would be used to stir up unnecessary drama later between these three characters. This never happens, which is a good thing, but also it turns out a bad thing. Listen, I don't want The Last of Us to become a CW drama, but the lack of friction or honest conversations among these three about their past dating feels genuinely strange. Jesse is almost too understanding, which I thought was a front and would come into play. During one of the game's last flashbacks, the Jackson dance from the night before, we see that Jesse does still care to some degree because he asks Ellie if Dina has talked about getting back together. But no conflict ever happens. The game implies a long history between Dina and Jesse and even Ellie herself, but we don't get to actually see any of it.
Do you miss being with him?
With Jesse? No.
Been together for so long.
Look, Jesse's great. I love his parents. They will always be family, but we were just on autopilot.
This lack of on-screen development, like through a flashback, makes Jesse and Dina's prior relationship, and particularly Jesse's immediate acceptance of Ellie and Dina's new relationship, feel tacked on, existing just as a narrative setup for Dina's later pregnancy. Jesse and Dina have to have dated recently because Dina needs to be in the early stages of her pregnancy while in Seattle in order to provide a convenient reason she stays behind during later segments. It also provides a reason at the end of the game for why Dina can't support Ellie's final desperate pursuit of Abby because now there's a child involved. I've seen people suggest that instead of being pregnant, Dina could have sustained an injury during day one and that it would have solved these problems and felt more natural. I disagree with this because that puts her story too close to Tommy's and steps on the toes of his arc in the final chapter, which is fantastic. It's for this reason that I think just a sprinkling of CW love triangle drama could have helped make the pregnancy feel more believable. Now, alongside introducing Dina and Jesse, this opening chapter shows us the community of Jackson, which we briefly saw in the first game. While not overly important to the main narrative outside of the beginning, it does add to the world building, especially as a comparison to the communities we'll see in both Seattle and Santa Barbara over the course of the game. The residents of Jackson have it quite good from what we're shown. It's a mostly friendly community that runs like a well-oiled machine. From large-scale greenhouses to a hydroelectric dam producing electricity, extensive patrol routes, lookouts, and trading with outsiders, all without a hint of militaristic or theocratic authoritarianism. The fact that the town can even have a dance in a post-apocalyptic world is pretty special for their community. The game continues with Ellie and Dina beginning their assigned patrol route, checking houses and clearing a grocery store of infected. This serves as the gameplay tutorial. There are multiple smaller encounters with only 2 or 3 infected at a time, all runners, the standard least threatening kind. You're taught how to craft both a health kit and an explosive Molotov. This reinforces that the environments you're moving through should be closely examined and picked through, not just to find ammo, but also crafting materials. As you progress, there's an encounter with 2 clickers, which are an infected variant that are highly deadly but also blind. They hobble around using their hearing and echolocation to find prey. The clickers are undoubtedly the star among the infected, with an awesome sound and visual design. The final test of the supermarket is an encounter where we get a mix of the infected types we've seen so far, clickers and runners. Players will have learned that stealth is the preferred way of dealing with clickers since they can't see. However, runners aren't blind, and should they see you, their howls will alert the surrounding enemies. This simple pairing of the 2 enemy types forces you to think about the encounter and the environment when determining your approach. Eventually, Ellie and Dina are forced to take shelter in an abandoned library as a winter storm moves in. Inside, they learn it was a secret spot for Dina's old patrol partner, a man named Eugene. There's a lot of great dialogue between the girls about this character, who recently passed away. This information is good world building, but also cleverly lays foundation for 2 future things. First is that Eugene taught Dina how to work with electronics, a skill that she'll use in Seattle. Second is that it provides background on Tommy and his time with the Fireflies, setting him up not only as capable but ruthless when he needs to be, again something we'll see in Seattle.
I had no idea.
Yeah. They got into some real dark shit.
Like what?
He said he blew up a checkpoint at Denver QZ, killed 3 soldiers, and 2 civilians.
Jesus.
He also told me that he and Tommy slow tortured some big Fedra general. I don't know. I don't buy Tommy doing that, though.
He could do worse.
What do you mean?
He and Joel did a lot to survive after the outbreak.
As they explore, Ellie and Dina find Eugene's now dead marijuana grow operation and decide to wait out the storm there. This brings us to the final piece of setup for the Jackson chapter, the introduction of the sequel's other main character, Abby.
Saw an armed patrol go from town to an outpost over there. A few more outposts in between. They have electricity, guns. It's a lot of people.
We can figure it out.
Okay. Assuming he's in there, how do we get to him?
We can corner one of the patrols and get confirmation, and then, I don't know, maybe find a way to lure him out.
Yeah, okay. Sure, they'll be happy to offer that information up.
Well, then we make them.
The prologue switches back and forth between Ellie and Abby until their stories eventually collide. We don't know who Abby and her group are or what they want, but it's obviously not something good. As Abby makes her way to a nearby outpost, that same winter storm begins to set in, and the situation quickly escalates as she realizes that a horde has found her. What follows is Part 2's first set piece, the horde chase first through the snowy wilderness, then under the fence, and continued once picked up by Joel and Tommy.
Give me your hand! We're gonna have to run! There's too many of them! I'll cover you! Keep going! Come on, this way! Through here!
It's the classic frantic Naughty Dog chase sequence that's quite intense on your first playthrough, but less so once you realize how scripted it is. Which isn't a negative, just to clarify. This leads to a defending encounter as you and Joel protect Tommy while he moves a piece of equipment to create an escape route. During this segment, Tommy introduces both himself and Joel to Abby, which prompts Abby to suggest rendezvousing with her group in order to better defend against the horde and wait out the growing storm. They do this, but it's apparent from watching Abby's face during all of this that something's not right, and we quickly find out what.
How long y'all been here?
Since yesterday.
Yesterday.
Yep.
What are y'all doing out this way?
Just passing through. You two live nearby?
We do. A few hours down the hill. Y'all should come back with us, restock before you head out.
Appreciate it. I'm Mel, by the way.
Tommy. This is my brother.
Joe. Y'all act like you heard of us or something.
Because they have.
Laura, all clear?
He's out. Put him against the wall.
Tommy! Get off me! Get off me!
Puta madre.
Joel Miller.
Who are you?
Guess.
Why don't you say whatever speech you got rehearsed? Get this over with.
Tourniquet his leg. Do it.
Don't you fucking move. God! Damn it!
Clear out. You stupid old man. You don't get to rush this.
We swap back to Ellie and Dina, who are found by Jesse. Joel and Tommy never showed up at the rendezvous point to be relieved by Jesse and his partner. The three of them split up to cover more ground in their search, and it's Ellie who arrives at the mansion first, seeing the bodies of numerous infected that were killed outside the gate. She finds it empty, but is drawn towards the sounds of yelling from the basement.
Look, we got her. Okay?
You're gonna fucking die!
What's going on?
Let him go.
Who is that?
Let him
She
go!
snuck in.
Why aren't you posted up outside?
We didn't think anyone was gonna show up.
What the hell did you expect? We gotta get out of here before the whole town's on top of us. You're done.
You want what I want, right?
End it. Now.
Joel, get up. Joel, fucking get up. Please stop. Please don't shoot. Joel, please get up. No! No! Fucking kill you! No! Fucking kill you! No!
The mysterious group then departs, leaving both Ellie and Tommy alive and leaving everyone, including the player, confused about why they killed Joel. We won't get an answer to this until around halfway through the game, but many players will likely make the educated guess that her attack is tied to what Joel did at St. Mary's Hospital at the end of the first game. That he robbed humanity of a cure. This is logical given the emphasis that Part 2's opening placed on Joel's choice to save Ellie. For the structure of this video, I'm going to reveal her motivation right now, but I want to be clear that as a player, we don't learn Abby's true motivation until halfway through the game, when we swap to playing as her again. This was an intentional narrative choice because it's important that players fully villainize Abby so that when they finally do learn her motivations, it's uncomfortable. I'll discuss all of this in more detail during the Abby Day 1 chapter of this video, but the twist is that Abby more or less doesn't care about the cure. In fact, she never really brings it up one way or the other. Her real motivation is revenge because the surgeon that Joel killed in the hospital, the one that was to perform the operation on Ellie, was Abby's father.
No!
Don't look.
Dad! Dad! No! 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 Joel, get up.
Taking us back to the basement in Jackson, this scene is brutal and should have an immediate emotional impact on the player. When the narrative decision to kill Joel gets discussed, it's usually criticized in 3 ways. First, Abby finding Joel is unrealistic. Second, Joel and Tommy act out of character by being so trusting of Abby and her group. And third, that Abby's group wouldn't have spared Ellie and Tommy. The argument is that these 3 issues poison the well for everything that comes afterwards. I want to go through each of these because there's evidence within the game that provides answers for them if you're discussing in good faith, of course. Let's start with the first one. It's clear from the discussion between Abby and Owen on the ridge that they're looking for someone. That someone isn't Joel, but rather Tommy, and this is confirmed later in the game during Abby's 3rd flashback.
Abby, when the moon comes
I
out...
found Joel's brother. He's at a settlement out in Wyoming.
How do you know that?
Some fireflies who served with him got picked up at the wall.
I thought he quit like a decade ago.
Yeah.
So, have these guys heard from him since?
It's a lead. I gotta see it through.
Abby was part of the Fireflies, and here's Marlene referred to Joel by name. It's logical to then assume that she would learn his brother Tommy was a Firefly and about the things he did. Abby asks any former Fireflies she meets about Tommy and eventually learns that he settled in Jackson. Abby goes there looking for Tommy, but hoping for Joel. She then runs into two brothers named Tommy and Joel and connects the dots. As for how did she luck out that Joel and Tommy would help save her from the Horde? Yeah, it's a work of fiction. Chance and luck happen all the time in the best media and in real life. If you disagree with this, then you must also hate John Wick, Slumdog Millionaire, and Pineapple Express, all great movies that utilize coincidence as part of their plot in the same way that The Last of Us Part 2 does. There's a storytelling principle that goes coincidences can get your characters into trouble, but they should never get them out of it, and this is exactly the case with Abby stumbling into Joel in Part 2. Next, I'm going to jump to the third criticism, that Ellie and Tommy wouldn't have been spared. Dina even brings this up once in Seattle on day 1.
Something keeps bugging me. Why didn't they kill you and Tommy when they had the chance?
I don't know.
It seems reckless.
Maybe they're dumb.
Maybe.
What?
Could be that you just weren't who they were looking for. So they let you go.
This implies a much simpler explanation that is rooted in the character's motivation and the game's central themes.
Whoa, what are you doing? Manny.
Cleaning up.
No. We're here for him. That's it.
It's too risky to leave them alive.
Too fucking bad.
He's right. We can't have loose ends.
We killed them. We're no better than he was. They didn't do anything wrong.
Yeah, look at my face.
Fuck your face. You should have been guarding the upstairs like I told you to. Move! Back up.
Calm down.
Or what? Back the fuck up!
Calm down!
Now then! You shoot me?
Stop! We're done.
These also aren't initially presented when we're experiencing the scene as Ellie. We only hear this side of the conversation once we revisit it as Abby. This part of the scene is designed specifically to challenge our assumptions as players. We witnessed the brutal death of Joel and likely think of these characters as monsters. The game attempts to subvert this by showing that they're not just mindless killers. Their vengeance was focused solely on Joel, the man who killed Abby's father and destroyed the hope for a cure. Ellie and Tommy at this moment have done nothing to them. It's deliberately showing us that even in this harsh post-apocalyptic world, and even among people capable of extreme violence, there are still moral lines and a capacity for humanity. It's saying that just because the world's violent doesn't mean you have to abandon morality. This is really Owen's whole character. Throughout the game and flashbacks, he consistently expresses a desire to move beyond the endless cycle of violence, and as we'll see, grows increasingly disillusioned with the Washington Liberation Front. It's no coincidence that Abby and Owen are the only two members of that initial group who are even remotely likable, and it's because they receive significant character development later in the game that makes them more complex. In the same way that earlier I described Joel's choice to kill the doctor and rescue Ellie being the correct choice for his character, sparing Tommy and Ellie is the right choice for Abby and Owen's characters. Finally, let's address the second criticism, that Joel and Tommy act out of character during this sequence. I've seen the argument that Joel, a grizzled survivor who has lived through 20 years of the apocalypse and who was incredibly weary of strangers in the first game, almost immediately trusts Abby and her group. He gives his real name and walks into their hideout without hesitation. That the old Joel would never do this. And you know what? I agree. The old Joel never would, but he's not the same person anymore. One of the points of the first game is that because of Ellie, Joel has regained his ability to see the good in the world, even a post-apocalyptic one. The answer is that he's obviously grown as a person in the last 4 years, and while I hesitate to use the word soften, I think tempered might be more accurate. This isn't just a fan theory either. We see exactly this through the game's flashbacks, that Joel has become more trusting and grown out of that ruthless survivalist mindset. In one of the flashbacks, he takes Ellie to a natural history museum for her birthday, but he isn't concerned with her screaming from atop the dinosaur statue, despite that potentially alerting anyone nearby. He is also easily convinced to enter into the second building at that museum despite not clearing it.
Hey, who's being there?
Yeah, I don't know.
I'll open the door for you. Come on, we can't chicken out now.
In another flashback, Ellie and Tommy go shooting, and Joel asks,
"That was y'all shooting out there, right?"
Which indicates he's relaxed enough that he wasn't worried about shots firing in the distance. In that same flashback, he takes Ellie to get new guitar strings, but they cut through a hotel that unknowingly is a nest for infected.
You ever been in here before?
You just patrolled the streets. Feeling like a bit of an oversight now.
If Joel was still the pragmatic, cautious, ruthless person that he was in part 1, it's likely that he wouldn't even take Ellie to those places. The last part to refuting this criticism is that it's established that Jackson is a town that helps people, full stop. Earlier, when on patrol with Dina, we can read the Lookout's logbook, which has a note for September 4th, where 2 adults and a child were found while on patrol and were brought straight to town. During that flashback in the hotel, we can find a note addressed to a woman named Ruby from a Jackson patroller named Tara. The note describes how Tara understood the hesitation to come to Jackson, but that it's a nice community. It says, and I quote, "My boys are different people here. Before Jackson, we were so focused on just staying alive. I didn't like who they were becoming." Continuing a bit further, "They've got community, a reason to be accountable." This is part of why it's important we see Jackson earlier on in the game to reinforce this with our own view of the town. Bad things can still happen, but the community is able to not just focus on surviving, but on actually living. This all applies to Joel. He's not careless using his name with strangers, he's just grown less cynical, something the people angry at a video game should certainly try. Joel had just saved Abby, and like the player, didn't expect her to turn around and attack him. A few people may not like it or want to accept it, but saying it is out of character is factually wrong. Joel's just changed. This shift in behavior from living in Jackson naturally extends to Tommy as well. After Joel's death, we see Ellie and Tommy argue over going to Seattle to get revenge.
So they just get to get away with this?
Nobody wants that.
Yeah, but that's what's happening.
What if we get hit by hunters again?
Is this you talking or is this her?
It's a valid point.
If it were you or me, Joel would be halfway to Seattle already.
No, he wouldn't.
He absolutely fucking would be.
Well, we don't even know for certain that they're from Seattle.
Washington Liberation Front. That's what you said was on those patches.
What if they stole those jackets?
That's...
What's the WLF move?
What are you doing? You know what? I'm leaving tomorrow. And if you want to come with me, great.
You have no idea what you're walking into. You don't know how large that group is, how armed.
I don't care. You can't talk me out of this.
Give me a day to talk to Maria. Okay? There's gotta be some folks you can spare.
And if she won't budge?
Well, I'll figure something out. One day. Please.
While it might seem like Tommy doesn't want to avenge Joel in the same way Ellie does, or that it's Ellie that convinces him, this is all an act. Tommy wants blood just as much as Ellie does, but is attempting to keep her out of it.
Maria, I'm headed to Seattle. I wish I could let it go, but I can't. I have to bring these people to justice. Ellie's gonna try to come after me, but stop her. Take her guns, lock up the horses, maybe lock her up.
Maria knows that she won't be able to stop Ellie, and so allows her and Dina to follow after Tommy to Seattle, in part to make sure her husband isn't killed. This is the end of just the prologue, and wow, we've already reached the 50-minute mark in the video. Ellie and Dina's arrival in Seattle marks the beginning of Ellie's first day, which is the single longest portion of the game. It can be divided into roughly 3 sections: the intro quarantine zone, the semi-open world downtown segment, and finally the combat and narrative-heavy final section introducing the Washington Liberation Front, WOLF for short. While each of these sections offers unique gameplay, the through line of Ellie Day 1 is its world building and characterizations. It's largely focused on establishing Seattle as the setting, highlighting its history as well as current conflict. Additionally, Day 1 is the only day where Dina accompanies Ellie out into the city, and so a lot of time is spent developing Dina as a character as well as Ellie and her relationship. We jump straight from Jackson to Seattle, so we don't see their interactions during the journey, meaning that the time we spend with them here is crucial for building a believable relationship. The jump forward is for the best, attempting to include fully playable sections of this journey to Seattle, while great for character development as well as realism, would have distracted from Ellie's quest for vengeance, which only meaningfully starts once in Seattle. Now, of the 3 sections of Day 1, I don't have much to say about the intro quarantine zone. There's no combat, just some basic jumping across roofs and simple puzzles revolving around powering up generators. Of importance, Ellie comes across a tourist map of Seattle, which serves as a gameplay tool in the open world part, but also part of the narrative later on. It's also here that we start to learn what has happened in Seattle.
These were soldiers from the QZ. See the Fedra uniforms?
You think it was the WLF?
Yeah, and they left them here. Like a warning.
That's fucked up.
When the cordyceps outbreak began, a government agency known as Fedra, which stands for Federal Disaster Response Agency, took control of the country's government in order to set up the quarantine zones. In the first game, we see one of these quarantine zones, Boston, is under martial law, with agency soldiers controlling all aspects of life. This is who the Fireflies were fighting against in Boston and why Joel operated as a smuggler. From the cities we visit and documents we find in the first game, Fedra was incredibly unpopular and was overthrown in each of these cities outside of Boston. We learn in Part 2 that Seattle largely followed this same trajectory. Their policies and procedures, including bombing the downtown region, caused the formation of a resistance group, the Wolves.
What the hell happened out here? I'm guessing the military bombed the shit out of this place.
Why would they do that?
They would sometimes destroy parts of the city that were lost to the infected, or to rebels.
That seems like overkill. Well, it usually worked. On the infected or the rebels? Both.
Wolf soldiers began attacking supply lines, which we can physically see. This meant food distribution was impacted, and Fedra began to have to remove people from the quarantine zone in order to conserve food. The wolves capitalize on this and are able to seize control, recruiting some of their soldiers, chasing others out of the city, and executing any holdouts. Ultimately, the people of Seattle just traded one authoritarian government for another as the wolves became oppressive themselves. Among these collected notes, a character named Isaac is consistently referenced as a leader within the Washington Liberation Front. The notes do a great job of building up the cold and calculating presence of this character that unfortunately doesn't live up to the hype when we finally meet him during Abby's story. Or rather, he seems quite interesting, but we just don't see enough of him. Isaac appears in only 2 scenes, both exclusively within Abby's story. He's the biggest indicator of cut content, in my opinion. Originally, Part 2 Seattle was supposed to take place over 5 days for Ellie and Abby each, as opposed to the 3 it currently is. I have to imagine that Isaac was supposed to play a larger role in the game's narrative, probably as part of Abby's disillusionment with the wolves. The second section of Ellie's first day is the semi-open world downtown. The narrative goal for this section is finding gasoline that can power a generator needed in order to open an electrical checkpoint gate. An earlier found note indicates that there is stored gas in the downtown courthouse garage, as well as a building referred to as the Dome, which is a synagogue Fedra was using to distribute rations. To this end, narratively nothing really happens here. Whichever of these 2 locations you visit first won't have gasoline, but will have a small usable gas container. The second location will then have the gas. This requires both locations to be visited, as both have smaller infected encounters. The synagogue feels designed to be visited first, as it unlocks the stun bomb crafting recipe, as well as teaches players about using tall grass for stealth, just like every other PlayStation exclusive. In contrast, the courthouse doesn't teach anything new, but instead feels like more of a skill check to make sure you've been learning up to this point. Its first encounter is a traditional stealth one, allowing players to slink around, picking off the wandering infected, and its second one then forces you out of stealth to deal with the infected openly. An important note is that there have been no wolf or human enemies of any kind up to this point, and it's something that Ellie and Dina comment on, that the downtown appears to be completely abandoned. These little conversations are the real point of the downtown segment, bringing us back to day 1's world building. In my Uncharted 4 video, I talk about how downtown Seattle is an evolution of that game's Madagascar section. I don't want to repeat myself too much, but the idea is that Part 2 is able to more meaningfully execute the idea of an open world for a chapter because of the nature of its gameplay, specifically finding ammo, crafting components, and upgrade materials. These give a gameplay reward for taking the time to explore the area, which is something that Uncharted 4 lacked. Naughty Dog seems to be iterating on their idea of open world with each new release, and if I had to bet money on it, I would guess Naughty Dog's upcoming Intergalactic will continue to further evolve this idea, likely with large open zones connected via a central hub, which will probably be your spaceship. So downtown Seattle is quite large and achieves success with its world building and characterization through the use of little vignettes spread throughout the area. For example, with the synagogue I mentioned earlier, we learn that Dina is Jewish.
This place brings back a lot of memories. My sister used to drag me to a synagogue all the time.
You never struck me as much of a believer.
Nah, but I like coming from a long line of survivors.
You mean after Outbreak Day?
That, and the Inquisition, and the Holocaust. My family always made it out alive. Barely.
Another is a now defunct tank, where we see a bit of Ellie's interest in space, foreshadowing the upcoming flashback. My personal favorite of these vignettes is one that takes place in a ruined bank, now filled with infected. Through environmental storytelling as well as notes found on bodies within, we learn that when the outbreak first began, 4 guys thought they could take advantage of the situation and rob the bank. Infected show up and one of the guys gets bit, prompting the others to lock him in the vault. This man eventually chooses to end his life once he connects feeling sick to his bite. The other robbers don't fare much better though. One can be found with a gunshot wound in his skull, and the other 2 become infected, and are the 2 clickers that can be seen wearing body armor in the main room of the bank. This completely optional vignette was a cool small story all on its own, but it also rewards you by giving you the pump-action shotgun early. The last vignette I'll mention is the most prominent of them, meaning it gets its own cutscene. In a music store, Ellie finds a guitar and briefly plays the intro to Future Days, leading to a nice moment with Dina.
If I ever were to lose you.
What was that? Nothing.
Well, nothing sure sounds nice.
It serves as a quiet, tender moment before the absolute shitstorm that is about to occur after leaving the downtown, and that will continue on through the next 3 days in Seattle. With gas in hand, the pair are able to open the quarantine gate and make their way to the Saravina Hotel, a location that is used by the wolves. We're now out of the downtown open world section and into the more linear final stretch of day 1. Once at the hotel, Ellie and Dina find infected that are being drawn to dead bodies that litter the area. Someone has already killed all of the wolves in the hotel, and that someone is Tommy.
He's one of the ones that killed Joel.
Shit. There's another one over here.
I don't recognize him. He was using them against each other.
How?
Joel told me about this. You ask this guy a question, but you don't make him say it, you make him write it down. And then you ask this guy, and if the facts match, you're telling the truth. If not...
You fuck him up?
Yeah.
East 1. Another gate code?
Looks like it.
This just happened now. He can't be far off.
We're now beginning to see Tommy's wake of violence through the city, and as cool as that is, it does create some problems. Dina says here that they can't be that far behind him, and a little further on we see Tommy's recently deceased horse as well as a trail of dead infected. So if Ellie and Dina are at most a day, but more likely just hours behind Tommy, and they're traveling roughly the same route, how did Tommy get past the big quarantine wall with his horse? Why are none of these checkpoint gates still open, since he would have had to open them himself? The code for the specific gate Ellie and Dina passed through was written down by one of the guys he tortured at the hotel, so why is the gate then closed once we get there? This is one of the few places where the narrative and gameplay don't mesh quite so cohesively, which the developers likely realized because Tommy disappears after this until day 3. I actually wouldn't be surprised if we at some point get a DLC focused on Tommy's journey over these 3 days. It feels particularly ripe given that we know absolutely nothing about his actions on day 2, as well as that all of the animations for him being playable were done for the roguelike mode No Return. Regardless, Ellie and Dina use the same code Tommy obtained, but don't have any further leads as to where to look. That doesn't end up mattering though, because this happens.
Get the other! Don't lose her! Go!
Didn't think I'd ever see you again. How'd you find us?
I asked about a dude with a bitch scar across his face.
It's funny. How many came with you? Just you two?
You can't stop this.
Jordan! You're supposed to be out looking for the other one. What the fuck is this?
You know the smuggler that we killed out in Jackson?
Yeah?
This girl was there.
What?
They're coming after us. That's why Nick was fucked up like that. We gotta get her to Isaac. We gotta tell him exactly what's going on.
Yeah, well, I just got off the radio with Isaac. And we got a new mandate. Kill all trespassers.
Oh, hold up. That doesn't make any sense.
Direct order, man.
No, let's talk to her. Let's figure out what she knows.
I don't give a fuck what she knows. You saw what she did to the others?
You have no idea how many people she might be with. This might be an ambush,
I don't care
Mike.
how many people she's with. We will find them. We will kill them.
Can you just think for yourself for a quick
Jordan,
second
get the
right
fuck
now?
out of my way.
The scene becomes playable as players must use a piece of broken glass to cut free and save Dina. Ellie searches the man Jordan, finding a letter and picture that gives the location of Leah, another member of the group that killed Joel. I like the intensity of this whole sequence a lot, and I think it's an incredibly strong introduction for finally meeting and fighting the wolves, as well as getting to kill our first person in Abby's group. Having said that, there are several things wrong with it. First, why doesn't Jordan just shoot Dina once she drops in? His intentions are to kill her, he just instead attempts to slowly strangle her, despite the risk of the whole situation. Obviously, this needs to happen because Dina can't be killed here, but perhaps Dina could have stayed on the roof distracting Jordan, which still allows Ellie to kill him. Dina could have then jumped down to join Ellie afterwards. I give this suggestion in part because, second, Dina has fallen twice in quick succession, first off the highway and now here through the glass. We don't know this yet in-game, but Dina is pregnant. Listen, I'm not a doctor. I don't know how likely miscarriages are from falls, and while I could armchair doctor and Google stuff, I don't think that's appropriate. What I do know is that by this point in the game, Dina herself suspects that she's pregnant. She reveals her suspicions shortly after this at the end of day 1. Despite these suspicions, she's still being quite reckless, especially later in the subway tunnels when she wants to take off her own mask in order to help Ellie. Had she done this, it's likely she would have killed both her and her baby. What I want to get at with this is that this behavior without any sort of consequence in the narrative feels cheap because it isn't acknowledging the potential ramifications of her actions. A consequence like Jesse getting upset at Dina's behavior because it's also his child. Or a consequence like Ellie disregarding Dina's health for her own vengeance, something that the Abby encounter in the theater almost gets at. It's also a missed opportunity to add complexity to her character. I don't think it's wrong for her to be acting reckless with a baby in this world. In each of these situations, she's acting to make sure Ellie isn't killed, which I think illustrates her priorities, but I think this could have been built upon. The rest of day 1 is largely combat focused, with only a little narrative progress. The pair fight their way out of the elementary school where Jordan had taken Ellie, and then again through numerous patrols in the Capitol Hill district before arriving at the Channel 13 news station in search of Leah. The Capitol Hill combat zones are excellent, with multiple routes to move through the environments, as well as multiple homes and storefronts to explore and scavenge. I particularly liked how enemy patrols would trigger at specific points, like at the gas station, for example. They seemed to only spawn once you stepped inside. This always created a sense of danger and panic when you suddenly heard approaching voices. Additionally, there's a note you can find that is written by a bitten soldier that states there are infected in a nearby grocery store. With the final encounter of the area, it's actually possible to find and lure these infected out in order to help deal with a large group of wolves. It's a nice touch and utilizes two groups of enemy types together, which is always great. The news station provides a brief pause from the combat. Within, Ellie and Dina find all of the wolf soldiers slaughtered, including Leah herself.
Holy. This is definitely not Tommy.
Who the fuck did this?
I don't know. But it's a message. That's her. Leah.
You sure?
Yes. Dina. It's all of them.
Hey, wait. That's near Jackson.
Look at their fucking smiles. That's her. That's the one who killed him.
3 down, right?
3 down.
They find Polaroid pictures of the group who killed Joel, which initially seems a bit contrived and silly, which it is, but then also I remember that today we have people chronicling every aspect of their lives on social media, so it's not that strange. The news station teases Seattle's other main faction, the Seraphites, who we've only seen the graffiti of and heard wolves talking about up to this point. It does this tease well by making us expect Tommy and then being surprised by something much more violent. More WLF arrive at the station, forcing Ellie and Dina to flee into the abandoned subway tunnels. I'm not going to discuss every combat encounter in the game, mainly just ones that are relevant for some reason, but I have to mention the one here in the subway tunnels, as it's probably the most beautiful combat encounter in Part 2. It again excellently pairs wolves and clickers in the same encounter, but steps it up by coating the environment in a red fog from wolf flares and the fungal spores floating through the air. In the tunnels, we also get introduced to the sequel's only new infected type, Shamblers. While never clearly stated how a Shambler develops, a document found after this first encounter guesses that it has to do with the precipitation in Seattle. This would make sense, except that they can also be found in the final chapter set in Santa Barbara, which gets about a fourth the rain as Seattle. And they weren't found in Boston, which gets only slightly less rain than Seattle in an average year. I point this out, but it doesn't really matter. Ultimately, it's a new infected type, and I think just saying environmental factors cause it is fine. Shamblers are designed as an area of effect infected type, producing corrosive spore clouds that damage you and require more strategic movement through the environment. The tunnel encounters are specifically designed to teach you this. They pair Shamblers with runners, and the starting areas are both tight, creating encounters that need both crowd control and precision, so you don't get overwhelmed by runners or trapped by the Shamblers. The tunnels culminate in Dina learning that Ellie is immune after she gets a crack in her mask, and then followed by a scripted chase sequence after a horde of infected are alerted to them. While visually quite interesting, it functions the same as all chase sequences and set pieces in Naughty Dog games. You have very little agency and are just moving along a predetermined path. Ellie and Dina enter an abandoned theater, which ends up serving as their home base while in Seattle. Here, Ellie explains to Dina about her bite mark and that she's immune. I like this, but it gets completely brushed aside with Dina revealing that she's pregnant. While Dina's pregnancy is a big deal, Ellie being immune is quite literally unheard of, yet Dina doesn't ask any questions. We will never see these two have a follow-up conversation about it, in fact. Dina remains at the theater for the rest of the game, and she does become increasingly sick, but still, it's unbelievable to me that she's not in this moment asking questions. The scene is saved, in my opinion, by the characterization we get of Ellie when she finds out about Dina's pregnancy.
What are we supposed to do now?
I just need to rest for a second. Are you fucking kidding?
How long have you known?
It was late a few weeks ago.
A few weeks? We could have still turned back.
Well, I didn't know. I wasn't sure, okay? I didn't want to be a burden.
Well, you're a burden now, aren't you?
She eventually apologizes for this, yet this scene says so much. Dina was being dumb and careless, but she is also instrumental to Ellie's success in Seattle. Without her, Ellie could still be held captive by Jordan, or killed by infected, or dead from any number of things. We'll see that Dina is responsible for breaking the Wolf's radio code and coming up with leads for Ellie to chase. Yet with one complication, Ellie now sees her as a burden. The motion captures so much emotion too. You can visually see on her face that she's trying to work out what to do. She's not willing to give up on her revenge now that she's in Seattle, and is trying to figure out a way that staying could be compatible with Dina's reveal. It's something we'll see reinforced when she tries to offload Dina onto Jesse at the beginning of day 3. It's also completely understandable that Ellie feels this way. One of the things that The Last of Us Part 2 does so well is that no one, not a single character, is portrayed as purely a good person or purely a bad person. Everyone does good things and bad things. It's very human. Ellie's Day 1 finishes with our first flashback sequence to 3 years prior. It features Joel taking Ellie to the ruins of Wyoming's Natural History Museum as a birthday gift. There's the return of the excellent banter between the two of them, from Ellie attempting to guess what the gift is.
Is it a convertible?
You're not gonna guess.
Is it a puppy? Is it a lot of kittens?
You mean a litter?
What's a litter?
A bunch of kittens.
Why wouldn't you call it just a bunch of kittens?
I don't know what... It's called a litter.
To fun information about the dinosaur skeletons once in the museum.
Whoa, this one's brain was the size of a walnut.
No way. Looks like you two have something in common.
Oh, good one.
There's a sweet scene with the two of them in a space capsule, and as part of the gift and knowing that Ellie originally wanted to be an astronaut, Joel has somehow gotten his hands on a cassette tape of the rocket countdown during the Apollo 11 launch. The flashback could have easily ended here, and I suspect that's what many players wanted, but it doesn't. At Ellie's insistence, they continue exploring the second museum building, which Joel hasn't checked and cleared. The pair are separated at the beginning of this as Joel boosts Ellie in and she looks for a way to let him in. As she makes her way through the dark museum, Ellie sees ominous graffiti messages and finds the body of the writer. Joel eventually locates Ellie, who's staring at the final graffiti message, which is the firefly symbol.
Well, let's get a move on. I want to get a fire going before it gets too dark. Come on.
Part 2 has numerous flashbacks, and they serve an important role in the game outside of just providing information. However, because they all work together to serve a unified purpose, I'm going to save the deeper discussion on them until the beginning of Abby Day 1. Ellie's first day was largely setup and world building. Day 2, however, serves to further escalate Ellie's pursuit of vengeance by throwing her alone into increasingly brutal combat encounters. Additionally, it introduces the game's second major faction, the Seraphites. The chapter is made up of 3 large encounter areas: Hillcrest, the park, and finally Lake Hill Hospital. By the end of the chapter, we will have engaged with nearly every enemy type the game has to offer. The focus on these brutal encounters pushes Ellie's second day to be my favorite chapter in the game. It begins with Ellie learning that Dina has fixed the theater's broken radio and has been listening in on WLF communications.
This is Site 13, unit Lima nearby. How many scars you got? Over. Negative on scars. Lone male trespasser. Armed.
Lone male
Over.
trespasser? Tommy, where's 14?
Not 100% sure.
Okay, then guess.
If this is 7, 12's all the way over here. I guess it's somewhere in this neighborhood?
Hillcrest.
Dina's health continues to worsen, however, so Ellie sets off to find Tommy by herself. This brings us to Hillcrest, which in my opinion features the game's best series of encounters. The area lulls you into a false sense of security with its quiet, overgrown streets and empty businesses, before introducing one of Part 2's most effective new enemy types, dogs.
We hold the perimeter until we hear otherwise. Keep an eye out in case he comes this way.
I got something. Shit. Get in there.
These aggressive WLF companions operate not only by sight and sound, but also by scent. What you're seeing on screen is the Listen mode's visualization of the scent trail, and it's actually quite scary sometimes as you try to put distance between yourself and a dog. That's their primary gameplay function, to force player movement and break static cover shooter routines. Without Listen mode, dogs become significantly more intense because you can't see how they're following you, and their low profile in general makes them hard to visually keep track of. Couple this with high damage and a chance to stun Ellie with a lunge takedown, and you understand why they became one of my most dreaded enemies. It's not just dogs that make Hillcrest great though, it's the steady crescendo of the entire area. It's the dogs, the bow you get halfway through, the open-ended street environments combined with the cramped indoor spaces of the houses. It's the additional groups of enemies spawning at points that catch you off guard. It's the fights becoming more frantic. There's a part where the wolves attempt to corner you in a basement and utilize smoke grenades in order to disorient you. As you move through the area, it feels like more patrols are converging on your location, and Ellie needs to get Tommy and leave as soon as possible. Hillcrest really showcases in my mind how much of an improvement Part 2's combat is over the first game, as well as just how far ahead it is from any other third-person shooter or stealth game. The exceptional quality of this gameplay comes from its refined core mechanics being paired with intelligent enemy AI and meticulously crafted encounter and level design. Core mechanics not just in how the shooting feels, but deeper design decisions. Every item can be used and has considerations for both stealthy and aggressive approaches. Combine this then with the series' deliberate choice to limit player resources such as ammo or crafting materials, and you become required to make critical decisions about where to put your resources. Health kits and Molotovs use the same ingredients for crafting, alcohol and a rag. But rags can also be used with a canister to craft a limited use silencer for one of your pistols, allowing it to be used stealthily. Players can craft standard arrows for stealth or more powerful explosive arrows. Melee weapons have limited use but can be repaired once and even upgraded to be more effective. Trap mines can be laid but require you to predict the enemy routes, or they can be placed more defensively to kill any enemies trying to flank you. These are just the crafting considerations for Ellie as well. Naughty Dog gave Abby an almost entirely different kit, different weapons and different crafting recipes based around her more direct brute force gameplay style as opposed to Ellie's more guerrilla warfare gameplay. These choices have meaningful impact because of Part 2's intelligent AI and meticulously crafted encounters. Human enemies have complex and evolving patrol routes. They call out to each other. They notice when someone is missing. With the Seraphites, they whistle rather than yell, and it's unnerving not understanding what they're saying. On top of that, they predominantly use bows, which if Ellie is impaled by an arrow, causes a damaging bleed effect that continues over time unless you remove the arrowhead. The Rattlers seen in Santa Barbara wear body armor or helmets, which requires careful observation and aiming. The game allows for fluid transition between stealth and open combat and back to stealth again by running and outmaneuvering enemies after being seen. However, their persistent awareness prevents simple disengagement and forces a constant need for adaptation. It feels great both when you outsmart and outmaneuver enemies, but also when they do it to you. As I've mentioned, the 5 infected types are mixed and matched across different encounters and create situations where your tactics need to change based on which are present. The game also has more encounters where multiple enemy factions are present at once, be it infected and humans or WLF and Seraphites. This often allows you to sit back and watch the sides fight, or specifically with the infected, draw them into the fight. The game's final chapter in Santa Barbara even further plays with this by having chained up infected that you can release. All of these factors create player agency, allowing you to tackle encounters in different ways, and results in emergent gameplay where unexpected chaos and intensity is created from your decisions. Now, returning to Day 2, Hillcrest also gives us Part 2's most substantial optional side narrative, telling the story of what happened within the neighborhood and to its residents. Through notes sprinkled throughout Hillcrest, we learn of a man named Boris, who helped defend the community with his bow, but is betrayed by the same community later on. Boris drugs several of his neighbors and drags them into a spore-filled garage, infecting them. Boris is bit by one of the members who awakens, but manages to lock them in by blocking the door with a dumpster. He then goes on to succumb to the bite himself. It's a sad story that is completely optional to learn, but if you do, it provides neat context to 2 encounters in the neighborhood. Exploring the area, you will likely see the garage and move the dumpster, which releases 5 infected, the individuals that Boris trapped.
What the fuck?
Boris himself also has to be encountered as part of progression. He's a camo-clad infected with a bow strapped to his back a bit further in the area. If you didn't explore or perhaps didn't find the archery trophy or drawing that his daughter made of him, you'd just believe this to be a regular infected. It'd still be a good surprise encounter, but the added knowledge provides texture. The final segment of Hillcrest reveals that the lone male trespasser in the area is not Tommy, but instead Jesse, who has followed Ellie and Dina all the way here from Jackson. We get another chase sequence set piece, this time with Ellie and Jesse driving a jeep as they are chased by wolves and then almost overwhelmed by a horde of infected. Similar to the subway one, this is all entirely scripted. However, unlike the subway tunnels, it does allow for more player involvement as you shoot enemies while Jesse drives. This ultimately doesn't matter, but it still does a better job of hiding the heavily scripted nature of the scene. Overall, it's a visually great set piece and satisfying ending to Hillcrest. Ellie brings Jesse back to the theater where Dina is relieved to see them. We then get a break to another flashback, this one set 2 years prior to present day, meaning it's also a year after the previous one in the Natural History Museum. It begins with Ellie on patrol with Tommy using a sniper rifle to clear infected out from around the ski lodge outpost.
You want to give it a whirl?
Are you sure?
Well, I'm feeling generous. See that sign there? Red one? Try hitting that. Good way to draw them out of wherever they're hiding. Got to aim higher. Leave the bullet room to drop.
I see.
There you go.
Sounds attracting them.
Well, we are on patrol.
This actually foreshadows something that Tommy will use against us when we play Abby Day 3, which is pretty cool.
What the fuck is he doing?
Shit. He's luring them to us. Get ready.
We get more of Tommy, which is important given the increased role he has in the final third of the game, but more importantly though is that this flashback sets up the growing tension between Ellie and Joel. I don't think this is entirely related to his lie about the hospital either. We can see in her journal that she is worried about coming out as gay to Joel, which to me says this is more teenage growing pains. The pair ride to the nearby town for guitar strings, but find their road blocked, forcing them to cut through a hotel, which they learn is actually a spore nest. We get our introduction to the rarest evolution of infected, the bloater. Big, heavily armored, and with the ability to charge through walls and throw acidic spores at you. Bloaters actually feel underutilized in Part 2, with I believe only 3 seen in the entire game and never an encounter with multiple at once like we got in Part 1. They're the least interesting of the infected types in my opinion, simply because their whole shtick of being tanky is only engaging when it has to be managed alongside other enemies. The first 2 encounters with a bloater, here in the hotel and then later in the arcade, you are just fighting it and at most an added runner. Compare this to the game's final bloater in Abby's chapter The Descent, where it's paired with numerous clickers and stalkers. That encounter is excellent. It allows for attempts at sneaking around, but also many opportunities for chaos to break loose if you alert any enemies. The encounter shows the high potential for bloaters that the game mostly doesn't capitalize on. After killing the hotel bloater, we get a short scene with Ellie questioning Joel about the hospital in Salt Lake City.
After you took me out of the Firefly Hospital, you said there were dozens of people like me.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what they told me.
I've never met another immune person before. Have you?
I could be hiding it. You do.
Do you believe that?
Is now really the time for this?
We traveled across the entire country to bring me to the Fireflies. I had so many questions for them. Why did you pull me out of there while I was still unconscious?
Because I let them run their tests. And when I saw that they were useless, I got us out of there.
How do you know they were useless? Maybe if you just would have given them more time, they could have figured something out.
There was no cure. There's nothing that could help these people or anybody else. I know you wish things were different. I wish things were different. But they ain't.
This then shifts us back to the present. Dina has learned that one of Abby's crew, Nora, is currently assigned to the Lake Hill Hospital. Ellie once again sets out alone, much to Dina's frustration as she herself is still sick and Jesse is resting. The journey to the hospital has 3 memorable parts for me, 2 of which introduce new enemy types. First is getting jumped by wolf deserters at a workbench in an apartment.
I got her! We're not going back, understand? It's on me!
This caught me completely by surprise. Hearing the footsteps quickly growing louder caused me to panic trying to get out of the menu. It works well because you feel taken advantage of, but the game earned this by lulling you into a false sense of security that you're safe at workbenches. Naughty Dog also shows restraint by doing it just this one time and not trying to reuse it. A primary reason that each of Part 2's chapters feel so distinct is precisely because of this sentiment. The developers first show creativity with their encounter design and then restraint to only use many of these concepts once. Speaking of restraint, this brings me to the second moment, an office space that Ellie is forced to move through.
Shit. Fuck me. Stalkers. Fuck.
We finally get our encounter with Stalkers, the last of our 5 infected types and arguably the most memorable. Stalkers are the only infected type that don't run straight at you and attack. Instead, they, stalk. They'll hide, sneak around, attempt to ambush you, and they don't outright reveal themselves if you make noise. Their silhouettes also often don't show up in listen mode, making them hard to keep tabs on. Having played the first game back when it released and remembering how creepy the Stalkers were, my first time playing Part 2 I was dreading their inevitable return, but also excited for it, and they don't disappoint. They now crawl around on all 4s like Gollum. They're an exceptional enemy type that gets used sparingly throughout the game and contribute immensely to encounter design, especially when they begin getting used essentially as trip mines that can jump out and alert other enemies if you get too close. Ellie escapes the stalker-infested building after getting tackled by one out of a window into a fast-moving body of water below. This functions to rapidly transport her closer to the hospital without needing players to physically navigate each street or building leading up to it. She arrives at the edge of a park and we get the final memorable part of this journey. I play games with subtitles on, and seeing strange whistles appear across the bottom immediately put me on edge. Rather than spoil a surprise though, it made me even more surprised when this happened. These are the Seraphites. I've already briefly discussed the core gameplay differences between them and the WLF. They utilize a series of complex whistles to communicate with each other and primarily use bows and melee weapons, although as we'll learn, some are granted permission to use pistols and bolt-action rifles. The end of the section also introduces a rarer subcategory of Seraphite, the Brutes, who use large melee weapons and can take more damage. The Seraphite introduction is enhanced by their absence for most of Ellie's remaining time in Seattle. That's the point, we're not supposed to get to know the Seraphites, or Scars as the wolves call them, during Ellie's portion of the game. We fight them here in the area surrounding the park, and again briefly on day 3, but that's it. They are mainly Abby's enemies, and as such I'll wait to discuss their background until her chapters. This finally brings us to the hospital. After an extensive encounter against wolves in the courtyard and lobby areas of the hotel, Ellie is able to locate Nora.
Where's Abby?
You still hear his screams?
What?
I hear them every night. Yeah. Yeah, that little bitch got what he deserved.
Fucking
Trespasser! Somebody, please!
The presentation of this conversation and the following chase are great. There's a split second where it seems like Nora might actually feel remorse for killing Joel, but then she calls him a bitch. She knows that it will get an emotional rise out of Ellie, just like the writers know it will get an emotional rise out of the player. It expertly puts you in Ellie's shoes. Ellie gets cornered by WLF soldiers, but briefly escapes into the spore-infected lower floors, taking Nora with her and infecting her in the process. She is able to escape the pursuing soldiers and proceeds to torture Nora for information.
You're breathing spores. You're her.
Where's Abby?
I'm fucking dead anyway. Why would I tell you anything?
Because I can make it quick. Or I can make it so much worse.
Think about what he did. How many people are dead because of him?
Last chance.
I'm not giving up, my friend.
The scene continues with Ellie's return to the theater. She is visibly upset and begins crying once alone with Dina. Ellie seems equal parts surprised and horrified by this. It portrays a person who isn't happy with herself for what she did and is worried Dina will be equally horrified by it. This is the violence that is teaching a lesson. For me, as the player, I saw this scene and I was worried about Ellie. Did I want Nora dead on that first playthrough? Absolutely, but not at the cost of Ellie's soul. Despite the overall excellence of these scenes with Nora and back at the theater, I do have some criticisms. First, I find it hard to believe that 3 trained WLF soldiers can't shoot Ellie when she's holding Nora hostage. This isn't a problem unique to Part 2 or The Last of Us, it's across all media, but it's also dumb across all media too. Second, when Ellie is torturing Nora for Abby's location, Nora could have easily lied about Abby's location. She's already been shown to taunt Ellie with the comment about Joel, and then acknowledges here that she's going to die anyways given the spores. To be clear, I understand why Nora can't lie from a narrative standpoint. This scene is about Ellie and her escalation of violence in order to get her revenge. Nora lying here and that being revealed later deflates the emotional impact of Ellie torturing Nora. I think the most logical explanation would be that she can't easily lie because her mind is starting to go from the infection, or perhaps she believes Abby could handle Ellie. This is me coming up with plausible explanations though, rather than something the game is itself explaining. After the theater, we get our next flashback, this time to 2 years prior. Ellie, unable to let go of what happened at the hospital in Salt Lake, goes there on her own. Within, she finds an audio recording briefly discussing what happened after Joel killed many of the Fireflies there and left with Ellie. This audio recording is actually of Mel, one of the members of Abby's group. Importantly, her recording reveals that they've never found another person who was immune to the cordyceps infection, making Ellie unique and revealing that Joel has been lying to her. Joel actually attempts to intercept Ellie before she gets to the hospital, but is unsuccessful and is finally forced to reveal the truth to her.
Making a vaccine would have killed you. So I stopped them.
Oh my God. Don't you fucking touch me! I'll go back. But we're done.
Day 3 is the conclusion to Ellie's time in Seattle, and as such it serves to further push Ellie into someone almost unrecognizable from who she once was, particularly in regards to the first game. It's not the conclusion of her revenge quest, that comes in the final Santa Barbara chapter, but Day 3 sees the consequences of her actions in Seattle start to catch up not just to her, but those around her as well. It shows us right as Ellie wakes up that despite the trauma of the prior evening's events, she's not turning away from her revenge, even as she sees that Dina is becoming increasingly sick. This contrasts against Jesse, who has figured out that Dina is pregnant and wants Ellie to abandon this quest in order to return her to Jackson.
I get why you came out here. But we gotta take her back. She needs real care, and she's not gonna get that.
Yeah, I know. I know. But I can't just leave Tommy. He's out here because of me. Maybe you could take her back.
She's not gonna leave without you. Screw it. Let's get Tommy. This aquarium that girl told you about. Tommy hasn't found Abby yet. We'll post up there until he does.
An important detail for me in this scene is Ellie's facial expression when she's suggesting Jesse could take her back.
Maybe you could take her back.
Under the guise of needing to stay for Tommy, Ellie tries to pawn Dina off on Jesse, that way she can proceed without issue. Jesse agrees to help find Tommy, but it's clear that he's suspicious of Ellie's motives because he later asks her to confirm her intentions.
I need to get clear on something. When we find Tommy, you're good with going home.
Yeah.
You'll be leaving some of those assholes alive.
Dina should be back in Jackson.
Okay. Good.
He also begins asking Ellie if she's rationally thought through her actions there in Seattle.
You ever worried they're gonna come back to Jackson after us?
What do you mean?
I mean, we're going through a lot of their people. In their city.
Because of what they did.
Didn't Abby and her friends come to Jackson because of something Joel did?
This place isn't like Jackson. I mean, Joel and Tommy helped Abby when she got attacked. These people are trying to kill everyone around them. I mean, they shot you on sight, didn't they?
Yeah, they did.
This isn't to say Jesse's criticizing her. He really is a good character and supports what Ellie's going through.
I would have come, you know, if you told me you were leaving.
I didn't think you'd be okay with all this.
I looked up to Joel. What happened to him was messed up. I would have come.
That's to say as much as he can. In Ellie's journal, we learn that Norris stated why their group killed Joel for what he did at the hospital, and Ellie is choosing not to share that information with Dina and Jesse. She doesn't think they'll understand, which is probably at least partially correct. Jesse's suspicions about Ellie's motives get confirmed once the pair reaches a crossroads a bit closer to the aquarium.
Sniper spotted in 12. I repeat, sniper sighted at the marina, likely a trespasser. Any nearby units report. Over.
We can get to the marina through here.
No, we're taking a boat.
You heard them, right? They're talking about Tommy.
We don't know that.
Who else is it gonna be?
If it is him, he'll be gone by the time we get there. Abby is where he'll be headed, so if we just
What if he's in trouble?
He can take care of himself.
Jesus Christ.
The best way to help Tommy is to go after Abby. You do this, I'm not saving your ass again.
I really hope you make it.
Ellie is able to secure a small motorboat and travels through the flooded streets towards the aquarium. This section is visually great and one of my favorites in the game. The weather has gotten worse and a storm is coming. Something I really like that is best seen here is the crazy flooding and new water channels that just cut right through Seattle. I love the unspoken story of how water is reclaiming the city. Without the continuation of modern management strategies for the natural rivers around the city or the sewer systems, etc., the force of water would slowly just weather and cut its way through streets. There's an excellent book called The World Without Us by Alan Wiseman that, while not specifically about Seattle, does go through and predicts what sort of changes we would likely see to cities if humans disappeared. I would actually be surprised if this book wasn't a reference for Naughty Dog as they were designing the environments in the Last of Us series. There's very little combat in this portion of the chapter, just a small optional checkpoint against scars, and then the arcade bloater encounter I discussed earlier. Ellie eventually makes it to the aquarium but finds Owen and Mel rather than Abby. Ellie attempts to do the Joel method of getting two people to non-verbally confirm the same location on a map.
You ask this guy a question, but you don't make him say it, you make him write it down. And then you ask this guy, and if the facts match, you're telling the truth. If not,
you fuck him up.
Yeah.
But she isn't successful with it because she's not Joel, despite trying to be. Ellie shoots Owen after he makes an attempt for the gun and is forced to kill Mel as well after she attacks. It's then revealed by Owen that Mel is pregnant. Ellie begins going into shock, but is quickly found by Tommy and Jesse and taken back to the theater. While the emotional impact of Mel's pregnancy is powerful for the reasons I'll explain in a moment, this death feels written to further develop Ellie's character rather than as something that feels realistic to Mel, and to a lesser extent Owen. It's ridiculous that neither Mel nor Owen state that she's pregnant prior to their deaths. I'm willing to accept Owen not saying anything because after playing through the Abby side of the game, it becomes clear that Owen cares more about Abby than Mel. I could believe that in this scene with Ellie, his priority isn't Mel and his unborn child, but rather protecting the woman he actually loves, Abby. However, Mel is clearly ready to give her up. This is reinforced by what we see later in Abby's chapters. I just don't believe that she wouldn't immediately reveal that she was pregnant. This obviously can't be revealed though, because then Ellie wouldn't kill her, or if she did, it removes the intended importance of this scene. It's important because Ellie has now killed someone innocent. I've seen shallow discussion online about how some players seem to think the game has to be black and white in terms of right and wrong. That the game is telling them Ellie is a bad person, and that because they like Ellie, they think it means they're a bad person too. I don't understand this argument. To me, Ellie didn't know Mel was pregnant, and so she acted on the information she had. Both also attacked her as well. She finds out about the pregnancy and is upset by what she did. Again, to me, it isn't saying that she's a bad person, but rather that there are consequences for everything. She has now killed someone innocent, and the point isn't to say, see, Ellie is a monster, but rather it's, is this still worth it? Or even, is this what Joel would want for Ellie? Mel also has to be a death that Ellie deliberately causes too, not something unintentional like a ricocheting bullet, because Ellie herself, not just the player, needs to be confronted by the collateral damage of her actions. It's also important that she feels these consequences as a direct result of trying to be like Joel. We saw her shaken after she tortured Nora, but then continue on, and this is the natural consequence of that. It should feel uncomfortable, and you should feel conflicted. On the other hand, I think if someone plays this scene and feels absolutely nothing and doesn't question Ellie's actions, then they're likely avoiding the uncomfortable truths that the narrative is trying to explore. Back at the theater, Tommy and Jesse are discussing their route to safely get back to Jackson, implying that they'll be quickly packing up and leaving.
They got what they deserved.
But she gets to live.
Yeah. Is that okay?
It has to be.
These plans are immediately dashed, however, as we finally get the brutal reappearance of Abby.
Shit.
Jesse, stand up! Hands in the air, I shoot this one too.
Don't you do it, Ellie. Get out of here.
Stand up, now!
Don't you fucking dare!
Shut the fuck up! All right, stop! Stop! Toss your weapon. Toss your weapon! Fuck.
No.
I know why you killed Joel. He did what he did to save me. There is no cure because of me. I am the one that you want. Just let him go. You killed my friends. We let you both live. And you wasted it.
In the game, you then transition to playing as Abby through these same 3 days in Seattle and leading you back to this moment before seeing what happens. This is an excellent design decision, and I'll explain why I think that once we begin the Abby Day 1 chapter of this video, but for now I want to jump ahead to the continuation of this scene from later in order to properly wrap up Ellie's Seattle story arc.
We let you both live. And you wasted it. Wait! Get off of her! Move me! Come on.
What follows is an intense boss fight where you play as Abby against Ellie. I'll discuss this fight properly at the end of Abby's chapter, but for now what's relevant is that after a prolonged game of cat and mouse, Abby is able to get the upper hand on Ellie and end the fight.
Stop! She had nothing to do with this. She's pregnant.
Don't ever let me see you again.
There's another chapter after this that sees Ellie and Abby interact once again later on in Santa Barbara, but I want to stop there for now. Up to this point, Ellie hasn't been face to face with Abby since she murdered Joel. Ellie has been working her way through Abby's friends, having killed 4 of them by this point. She has suffered some physical injuries in Seattle as well as emotional trauma, but this confrontation in the theater serves as the true consequence for Ellie's single-minded pursuit of Abby in Seattle. Despite warnings from Jesse and the visible toll on Dina, Ellie's inability to turn back from her quest for revenge directly leads to this. Jesse's death and Tommy and Dina's injuries are consequences of Ellie's choices, highlighting that every violent action in this narrative has an equivalent reaction that spreads pain beyond just Ellie and Abby. Violent delights, violent ends. This is one of the game's points, not that revenge is bad, but rather that actions have consequences. This is a big part of why The Last of Us Part 2's narrative is a success in my eyes, because it doesn't shy away from showing those consequences. To further illustrate this point, I want to make a comparison to a revenge story done poorly, which finally brings us to Arya Stark. Like Ellie, Arya Stark is a beloved character from the book series A Song of Ice and Fire and its TV adaptation, Game of Thrones. Her story is one predominantly focused on getting revenge against the people who wronged her family. I want to give a spoiler warning for that series, particularly for the TV show and the character Arya, but there will also be references to other characters and events as well. It's specific to the TV series because the book series hasn't been finished, goddammit, and so it can't be confirmed if the TV show adapted what was planned for the books or did its own thing in the later seasons. If you wish to avoid these spoilers, what you're seeing on screen is the timestamp to skip to in order to bypass all but the final statement of this comparison. Both Ellie and Arya Stark are characters forged by trauma. For Ellie, it's Joel's death, and for Arya, it's her father Ned Stark's execution, as well as an event called the Red Wedding, where her mother and eldest brother are murdered. These traumas set them on relentless paths of vengeance. Both adopt a kill list mentality, Ellie with the photographs she finds, and Arya with her repeating names.
Cersei, Walder Frey, Meryn Trant, Tywin Lannister, the Red Woman, Beric Dondarrion, Thoros of Myr, Ilyn Payne, the Mountain.
Would you shut up?
To kill their targets, both evolve into incredibly skilled and ruthless killers. Their journeys inevitably push moral boundaries, leading to moral compromise and disturbing violence. Ellie's descent is seen in her attitude through her 3 days.
If those fuckers who killed Joel got taken out by some random infected,
Then they'd still be dead, Ellie.
I'm not sure that's justice.
Well, she's dead. How do you feel?
I'm pissed we couldn't talk to her.
Yeah. She didn't hurt Joel. It would have been pretty fucked up to make her talk.
She traveled hundreds of miles to torture him. I don't care whether she held the club or not.
I get it.
And culminates in torturing Nora. Arya's actions are even more chilling in my opinion. We see her kill plenty of people, both on her hit list and some not. She methodically tortures a sadistic guard, Marin Trant, who murdered her teacher, as well as gruesomely feeds one of the orchestrators of that Red Wedding event, Walder Frey, his own family members baked into a pie. Both Ellie and Arya commit acts that, if not for the perceived justified nature of their revenge, would unequivocally make them villains. Despite their actions, both Part 2 and Game of Thrones largely succeeds in making us empathize with and root for both Ellie and Arya. This comes from our sympathy for them and what they went through, as well as the clear evil of their targets. In Seattle, Ellie and those around her pay a heavy price for their violence, and as we'll see in the final chapter, Ellie loses even more before realizing that she's becoming someone she isn't, and someone who Joel wouldn't want her to be. In stark, no pun intended, contrast, Arya doesn't ever have any significant, lasting cost for her vengeance or violence. She gets more or less a happy ending, ultimately leaving her remaining family members and sailing into the sunset. This is after she kills, skins, chops up, and bakes people into a pie to then feed to the patriarch of the family. She doesn't even really learn a lesson, as the violence she's been trained in by individuals throughout the story is how she solves every one of her problems and gets her happy ending. This just glorifies revenge, and it's why many people felt unsatisfied by Arya's ending. Think about how unsatisfying of an ending this is, especially because Arya's story isn't just about revenge. It's also about her continued struggle to shed that family identity. To achieve her revenge, she seeks out a special group who train individuals to become assassins. One of her teachers tells her that she needs to give up her identity in order to fully commit to her training, but by giving up her identity, Arya would nullify her need for revenge because she's no longer that person who was wronged. Arya doesn't want to do this. She wants the tools that the assassins offer, but she wants them specifically to get her revenge. This is a really great dilemma to put the character in, and a great ending, in my opinion, would reflect Arya thinking that she can have it both ways. The power and the identity, and then suffering the consequences of not making a choice later on. Returning to The Last of Us Part 2, it commits to violence that teaches a lesson. And for a narrative that is focused on revenge, this is important. Ellie's arc demonstrates that even perceived justified vengeance consumes you and often doesn't lead to any satisfaction. There has to be consequences. A final note about the confrontation between Ellie and Abby. This scene highlights how little Ellie, and by extension the player, actually knows about Abby at this point. In the beginning of this scene, Ellie says that she knows why Abby is doing this, that it's because Joel stopped a potential cure from being made. However, that's not the actual reason Abby killed Joel. When playing the game for the first time, it's clear that Ellie and Joel now have a strained relationship, but it's not clear how strained it is or what caused it. Her flashbacks in Part 2 serve two purposes. First, to show us that slow corroding of hers and Joel's relationship as the years passed, as well as what caused it. That Ellie can't let go of what happened at the hospital in Utah. Second, we need to see Joel. We, the player, we need to be reminded of him. He's a ghost that fuels the player's anger and motivation for wanting revenge, even once Ellie's actions and descent into violence becomes uncomfortable. I've seen the criticism online that some people feel like these flashbacks were manipulative of the developers, and to that I'd say that they're exactly right. That's the point and why it's good game design. Part 2 is leveraging pre-existing affection for Joel and turning it into a powerful tool for the narrative. The flashbacks make us want to see Abby and her friends die. By then forcing us to play as her for the second half, the anger and desire for revenge are complicated. As far as the manipulation being bad here, I also don't get this argument. Manipulation is a common and often effective tool used in storytelling across all types of medium: movies, books, TV. Why should video games be an exception? The manipulation isn't designed to make us feel good, it's designed to provoke a strong emotional response, and often that response is one of unease. This discomfort is part of the game's point. Whether you agree or disagree with Joel's decision in the hospital at the end of the first game, Abby is a victim. You can still be angry about her murdering Joel, but this is a fact. Hers and Ellie's story are bookends of the revenge story. Ellie's is the lead up to revenge and how justified it feels, whereas Abby's is what happens after with the realization of how hollow it ended up being. The revenge Abby got brings her nothing but further pain. That's the point of her flashbacks, to show how obsessed she was with finding Joel, similar to Ellie, but with Abby, and to contrast it to the present, where it has brought her no peace. The game manipulates you into hating Abby, then forces you to play as her and experience her perspective. It doesn't ask you to forgive Abby, but it does ask you to try and understand what led her to killing Joel, as well as how it changed her. The doctor who is going to perform the surgery on Ellie at the end of the first game is Abby's father.
It's intertwined with the brain. There's no other option.
There has to be some other way.
There's no way to remove the specimen without destroying the host.
The host? She's a child, not some petri dish.
You think I don't... I'm aware of the situation.
And you're okay with killing her?
No, I'm okay with developing a vaccine that'll help save millions of lives. How many fireflies have died for less?
That was their choice. If this was your daughter, what would you do?
Abby.
I'll buy you some dinner.
Thank you, sweetheart. Look, Marlene.
Do it.
Thank you.
I'm gonna go tell Joel.
Why?
He traveled across the country with her. He has a right to know.
This isn't saying that Abby and Jerry or the Fireflies are morally right. I actually think Jerry is wrong here given how callous he's being. Him not wanting to tell Joel is shitty, and no amount of saving zebras will change that. It also reinforces that the Fireflies are just as wrong, if not more so than Joel is in that scene, because they are also not getting Ellie's consent. The acting in this scene shows that Jerry does find the situation difficult, but that he thinks the cost is warranted. The game isn't saying this person is good and this person is bad, rather that everyone is shades of gray. It's easy for both Jerry and Abby to say operating on Ellie is the right thing to do because neither have a connection to her. Just like it's easy for us to say Abby is wrong and evil because we have a connection to Joel and Ellie, but not her. Abby's part of the game sets out to challenge that by taking us through the same 3-day period that Ellie experienced, but now as Abby, learning what she was going through in an attempt to build that connection. Abby's first day can be divided into 2 parts based around objectives. First, it's to get to the forward operating base, or FOB, in order to talk with the wolf leader Isaac, and then second, to get to the Seattle Aquarium to find Owen. The first section, traveling to the FOB, has Abby travel with 2 companions at once, Manny and Mel, although it could actually be 3 if you count Alice the dog, who you should because she's awesome. Manny wants to help Abby and Mel reconnect after they had a falling out over the brutality of the events with Joel and Jackson. What starts as just a carpool to the FOB turns into an ambush by Seraphites on horseback. This eventually leads to a crash, fights through a hardware store, rail yards, and finally a holdout at a gas station until WLF backup can arrive. These encounters all work, in my opinion, to illustrate how Abby plays different than Ellie. Now, the main goal of Abby Day 1 is to show us her perspective, which it does successfully. In addition to that, it attempts to humanize the different members of her group as well: Manny, Mel, Nora, and Owen. In this regard, I don't think it's very successful outside of Owen. Characters like Manny, Mel, and Nora, despite the game's efforts to give screen time to, still don't get much development and are ultimately not that interesting. They often feel more like archetypes serving the plot rather than fully fleshed out characters. This is my biggest criticism for the Abby side of the story. Manny is right away established as the loyal comic relief sidekick. Much of his Day 1 dialogue is about the various women in the WLF that he's slept with.
Whispering Spanish in my ear?
Hey! That's private.
Oh my god. This is your place? How many sex dens do you have in this QZ?
¿Qué? Perdón, no hablo inglés.
And while much of that dialogue is funny, and I appreciated a subtle reference he makes to the movie Princess Mononoke, he never really shows depth outside of a few brief flashes. Manny appears to be quite committed to the Wolves, even going so far as justifying prior actions towards Seraphite children.
Getting nostalgic about the truce? Easier days, huh?
Too easy. We let our guard down, and they strung up an entire squad.
That was in retaliation to us shooting those kids.
Okay, but those kids attacked our guys. What would you do?
I don't know, not riddle them with bullets?
I'd rather save our people.
Manny, they're kids. It's not their fault.
Not our fault either. Those deaths are on them.
This is interesting, but doesn't ever become relevant. Part of Abby's arc is her becoming disillusioned with the WLF, similar to Owen, which could have led to an interesting conflict between Manny and her, but that never happens. We work with Manny again in Day 3 during the Tommy sniper set piece, but he suddenly dies there, so the pair never get to have a conversation about Abby's actions over the previous 2 days. Now, with Nora, I feel much more conflicted on. We see her briefly in a cutscene once the group reach the fob, and then again in Day 2 at the hospital. She's good in both of these, but we just don't spend enough time with her to really care about the character. Finally, there's Mel, who I think comes the closest to Abby and Owen, but doesn't quite reach the same level. She mostly serves to create specific emotional beats for Abby and Owen's relationship arc. In this regard, she's actually quite good. Abby and Owen clearly still have romantic feelings for each other. Their relationship originally ends, as we'll see, due to her obsession with finding Joel, not because of specific love lost between them. This is something that Mel is obviously aware of, but trying to ignore, because if she doesn't, it's not that hard to see that Owen cares about Mel, but loves Abby. Something he confirms when he suggests leaving Mel, pregnant, in Seattle and going to Santa Barbara with Abby. On Day 3, Mel confronts Abby about her suspicions that Abby's change of heart is just an act she's putting on for Owen.
He may fall for your little act with these kids, but I don't.
There's nothing to fall for.
Isaac's top scar killer suddenly had a change of heart? Nothing to do with Owen, right?
I haven't always done the right thing.
You're a piece of shit, Abby. You always have been.
Mel is wrong here. The events of murdering Joel as well as finding Lev and Yara do change Abby, and I'll discuss that fully at the beginning of her Day 3. Mel's shown to be insecure about Abby and Owen's relationship, but that's it. She's honestly more of a mirror for Abby and us to cause reflection rather than a real character. Additionally, I think she suffers from poor writing around her pregnancy in the same way Dina does. Even more so, it's ridiculous in my opinion that Mel's out in combat duty while pregnant. The game makes it a point to stress that it's her decision.
No one's okay with this?
Why would it be up to Owen?
This cavalier attitude about her baby's health adds nothing to the character. I think it weakens her actually, because she gets upset with Owen putting himself in danger when she's essentially doing the same thing but while carrying a baby. Now, Abby Day 1 also finally introduces us to the leader of the wolves, Isaac.
We could try another truce. But how long before some asshole on their side or our side unravels the whole thing? No. It has to be all of them.
Sir, we try attacking their island.
Not like this. Not with everyone. There's a big storm a few days out. We're gonna use it to mask our approach. You two are gonna lead the first wave.
Is Owen okay?
As far as I know.
Then why didn't you send a search party after him?
He shot Danny. Apparently to protect some scar.
It's bullshit.
Excuse me?
That's not Owen. You got it wrong.
You're saying Danny used his last breath to lie to me?
Sir, people hear that story. Owen's dead.
This is one of two scenes Isaac has in the game, which is a shame because he really is more interesting than most of Abby's crew. He demonstrates this cold intelligence that perfectly executes the persona and image that was built through the documents found during Ellie's half of the game. This conversation sets up two important pieces for Abby's narrative. First, we learn that the Wolf's endgame is to attack the Seraphite home island during a storm that will hit in 2 days. Second, we learn that Owen supposedly killed his patrol partner Danny, which in turn causes Abby to disobey Isaac and leave to find Owen. This is juxtaposed against Abby's second flashback from 3 years ago, where in it she prioritizes Wolf orders and training over her relationship with Owen. The pair explore the Seattle Aquarium a bit, finding a sailboat and the remnants of what happened to the family that owned it. We also get a good exchange between Owen and Abby about tribalism in this post-apocalyptic world.
I just don't understand how anybody willingly joins the Scars.
Why not?
Because they're an insane cult. That's why.
Well, in the QZs, people would refer to the Fireflies as terrorists. Fanatics.
We were naive. We weren't fanatical.
We blew up checkpoints and assassinated soldiers.
It's not the same.
I'm just saying...
Don't say shit like that at the stadium, okay?
Okay, all right.
It's understandable that Abby feels this way because she's looking for security after what happened with her father, and security is what the Wolves seem to offer, reinforcing why she prioritizes them over her relationship with Owen.
I know all the leads have dried up, but Joel's still out there, you know?
In the present, Abby sets off for the Seattle Aquarium, knowing that that's where Owen will be. The game doesn't address how the other Wolves, including Isaac, don't know about the secret hideaway, which strikes me as odd given Owen's high-ranking status and because we see he frequents this location via the flashbacks, even spending a significant amount of time there to decorate it for Christmas. In addition to providing a new perspective on the Wolves, Abby's narrative is also about providing new perspective on the Seraphites. This is actually deeply tied into Abby's own character arc. We learn that there was a truce between the two sides for a time, but that it was broken at some point, with both sides citing the other as the cause. We saw the Scars only briefly during Ellie's side, where they presented as a crazy cult, and while they certainly are that, we begin to learn that that's not all they are. On the road to the aquarium, we see a location that Abby refers to as Martyr's Gate. The game doesn't outright state what happened at this location, but the memorial to the Seraphite's prophet, white flowers, and prayers imply to me that while this wasn't the location of that leader's execution, it represents it symbolically. Through nearby notes, we can learn that the prophet, whose name is never given, was captured and held at this location for some time. Isaac eventually had her executed at another location, but this proved to be a bad decision, hence the name Martyr's Gate. The prophet was beloved within the Seraphites. It's why we see graffiti and art of her all around Seattle. Her teachings guided the group's religion. She believed the cordyceps infection was a corruption that occurred because of man's dependence on technology. Their society generally lives without technology and more in tune with nature, which we see during Abby Day 3 when we visit their island. This is also why most members of the Seraphites use bows and melee weapons, as only select members are given the right to use firearms. This all makes the Seraphites sound like a quaint group, almost Amish-like, but they are still every bit the religious cult you see as Ellie, strict customs and brutal rituals. For example, they are called scars because every member once of age must create a scar smile on their face going from either side of their mouth up. We learn since the death of their prophet, the scars are currently led by a council of elders. Ultimately, the road to the aquarium is difficult, a fact I'll return to later. Abby is ambushed by Seraphites who knock her unconscious. We get another flashback, this one brief and from only 4 months prior. In it, Abby visits Owen at the aquarium around Christmas time, revealing the Jackson lead she has on Joel. The plan is to leave the following week, and while Owen is hesitant, he still agrees to join. We then transition to what I think is one of the best segments in the game. The atmosphere in this scene is incredible and perfectly captures the creepiness of the Pacific Northwest forests at night. It also introduces Yara and Lev, two Scar runaways who are central to Abby's story and character arc, namely by providing her new perspective on the Seraphites as well as her own organization. We learn later that Lev, the younger of the siblings, was cast out by the Seraphites due to him being transgender, and his sister Yara left as well afterwards. Within the religious cult, men and women have strict appearances. All men shave their heads and all women have braided hair. Lev was informed that they, a child, were to be married off to one of the village elders to live as their wife and give them children.
Well, why do you think he did it now? Shaved his head, I mean.
Last week, he got assigned his role in the community. He wanted to be a soldier like me, but they decided he was to be a wife to one of the elders. It's tradition.
Poor kid.
I want to make a clear statement. Some people dislike the game because of Lev being transgender. They say that it feels preachy, I guess. I don't agree with this. Firstly, it's this detail that Lev is transgender that causes him and Yara to question their faction, which in turn causes Abby to reflect on her own. It fits and strengthens the intended themes of Abby's storyline. Secondly, the game never asks for your approval on the issue, and enjoying the game despite his inclusion isn't an endorsement for transgender issues. You can take Lev as he is. Also, disapproving of trans people shouldn't and doesn't stop their inclusion in the world, fiction or otherwise. The game barely even says anything about the issue. I'm being more preachy right here, right now, than the actual game is. Anyways, back in the forest, the older sibling Yara is caught by the Scars, and upon refusing to give up her brother, has one of her arms shattered with a hammer. Abby and Yara are rescued by Lev, and the three escape together through the forest as numerous infected begin surrounding them. Abby retrieves her backpack after a fight with a large brute woman, and this is followed by an excellent holdout-style encounter in a ruined building. Infected continuously spawn in, and you just have to wait for 11 Yara to find you an exit. This encounter is made even better because it's the first big one after you've unlocked the incendiary ammo for your shotgun, which just feels awesome to use and builds upon the different playstyles that Abby and Ellie have. After getting the siblings to safety and attempting to set the broken bones in Yara's arm, Abby leaves them and continues to the aquarium. She has an extensive encounter with infected aboard a grounded ferry, which has some great environmental storytelling. Early on, you can notice non-infected bodies that have short crossbow bolts in their heads. This is explained through notes on the boat. The vessel was carrying a number of passengers shortly after the outbreak, and soon people on board began getting sick. A small mutiny occurred, and a survivalist woman aboard executed anyone who was sick with her crossbow before eventually dying herself. We can then get the crossbow from her corpse. After this, Abby arrives at the aquarium and finds Owen quietly drinking in his sailboat.
We were cleaning out a small camp. It's just a couple scars, and hit this one on the head. Hard. And he goes down, and his weapon's right there. And he doesn't go for it. Instead, he turns to me. And he's old and tired. He was just ready. I've killed a lot of scars. And, I couldn't do it. Of course, Danny gets in my fucking face about it. I told him I'm done. He can do it himself if he wants. And he points his fucking gun at me. So I grab it, and then... First, I didn't even know which one of us was shot.
You defended yourself.
Stop.
I can fix this. I'll talk to Isaac.
I am tired, Abby. I don't want to fight over land that I don't give a fuck about anymore. I'm going to Santa Barbara.
To chase a rumor?
I've heard it more than once.
The Fireflies aren't regrouping. They're gone.
It's a lead. I gotta see it through.
The pair continues into further argument about the Fireflies, but the fight eventually leads to them sleeping together. This whole segment is here to establish some narrative beats as well as provide character development. First, that even Owen isn't perfect. He's cheating on his pregnant girlfriend Mel in this scene, and that should reflect on both him and Abby. Second, it shows that Owen is still deeply disturbed by what their group did in Jackson, so much so that he's now actively trying to leave Seattle to find the Fireflies and find himself again. His confliction isn't literally about killing a Scar, it's that he doesn't like the person that he's become, his disillusionment with the military organization and desire to find a new life. We see this again with a later conversation between him and Abby at the end of day 2.
They're just kids.
I know.
What happened to us?
Maybe we stopped looking for the light.
Third, this is the beginning of Abby's own realization that she also doesn't like who she's become, which is reinforced by her dreams we experience on the transitions between days. Day 1 opens with her waking from a nightmare, which is the hospital flashback we play where she discovers her dad's body. This is after she's killed Joel, and it clearly shows that it has brought her no peace. The transition we see between day 1 and 2, which occurs right after Abby and Owen sleep together, sees her walking through the hospital, but now in place of her dad, it's Lev and Yara murdered and hanging. It's not until day 3, after helping the siblings, that Abby is able to see her father, alive and smiling in her dream, giving her a sense of peace that didn't come from getting her revenge, but rather from helping the kids and coming to terms with her own lost identity. Abby doesn't really know the Seraphite kids at this point and should hate them simply because they're scars, but she doesn't. She's gained a new perspective, which prompts her, even if she doesn't fully understand why yet, to go back to help them.
She has compartment syndrome.
What does that mean? It means it has to come off. Make me a list. I'll go to the hospital, I'll get whatever
It'll take
you
you
need.
all day to get there.
I don't mind.
It's not about you, Abby. She doesn't have a couple of days. What if I can get you there in 2 hours? The Wolf Hospital, right? On the west side?
How?
We built bridges high up. It's how we get around the flooding and you people.
Can't you handle 2 hours?
Probably, yeah.
So make the list.
This right away establishes the goal for Abby's second day. Get to the hospital and get medical supplies for Mel to operate on Yara. I have one minor problem as well as a compliment about this opening scene. The minor problem is Mel and is one I hinted at earlier. Specifically, how did she get to the aquarium? She was left at the forward operating base after having been shot in the shoulder. The highway is watched by wolves, and the route Abby takes is filled with enemies, Seraphites and infected. Abby herself is overwhelmed by the scars and captured, so how does Mel manage to get there? Even Manny was hesitant to let combat-hardened Abby go alone.
I'm coming with you.
I've done this before.
Not with this many scars in the area.
Manny, please.
All right?
Part 2 gets a bit Game of Thronesy with how its characters can just quickly travel across the world, or in this case, the destroyed and dangerous city, while off-screen and in between chapters. Now for the compliment. The writing does something really simple yet effective during this conversation that only works because of the game's structure. Abby must go to the hospital to gather supplies. Chronologically, the events of Abby's day 2 happen staggered slightly prior to Ellie's. So by the time Ellie gets to the hospital, Abby is already deeper into it or possibly even exiting. Despite occurring first in the timeline, Abby's visit to the hospital is actually much more impactful if it's experienced second. This is because its content builds upon Ellie's by revealing what was lurking just a little bit deeper in the hospital. This is one of the chief reasons that I don't believe the game would work as well chronologically. I'm actually convinced Naughty Dog only released the chronological mode later in order to shut people up who complain that it'd be better that way. That way they can play it and then understand that it isn't. To quickly get to the hospital, Lev leads Abby to a nearby building that has what he calls a sky bridge, a secret route that the Seraphites use in order to stealthily move through wolf territory. What this translates to is a large, crashed construction crane. I think this actually works quite well. The idea that wolves wouldn't notice it because of how high up it is, and because common sense would say, who's going to climb along that, makes sense.
How do we not find these?
Wolves never look up.
What does that mean?
It means no matter how many people or guns you have, we'll find a way around you.
Abby has a fear of heights. It's a character trait that is never important outside of this segment, which is why I haven't mentioned it yet. I actually suspect it was only added to serve as the reason for her slip and fall here at the end of the sky bridge, leading to her and Lev landing in an unknown part of the building below. This makes sense from a gameplay perspective. We had several encounters against scars on our way up, and while more scar encounters going down likely would have been fine, landing in an unknown part of the building allows for something better.
Lev, are there infected in this building?
We always take elevators down to the bottom, so I don't know.
The something better is the descent, and it's one of Part 2's best sequences because of how it leans into a creepy and unsettling atmosphere. This section really serves as the culmination of infected combat encounters in Part 2. To be clear, you still fight infected after this, including an incredibly memorable encounter at the hospital. But with the descent, the game pulls stalkers, clickers, shamblers, and a bloater all together into a nerve-wracking trek through a sprawling hotel nest site. It begins with the pair realizing what they've entered into almost immediately.
Spores. Masks on.
I don't have one.
Do you guys not believe in gas masks?
We were on the run.
Let me see what I can find. Stay here. Back up. All the way.
If you die, I'll be stuck here.
I better start praying I make it.
There's a solo section with stalkers as you look for an intact gas mask for Lev. There are also stalkers later on that burst from fungal masses on the walls like trip mines. As you journey down, you can hear and see infected on the different floors, and it feels like you're descending into hell. It's fitting then that you find Abby's special weapon, the flamethrower, here. The final stretch is a long hotel hallway with a bloater standing at the exit door and 5 clickers spread throughout the rooms. The trip mine stalkers are present and can still be triggered in stealth, meaning they'll alert all of the other infected. It's a great encounter, and as I mentioned earlier, it is the only encounter that tries to incorporate bloaters into more complex fights. They exit the building near the hospital, and Abby goes in by herself. This doesn't go as planned, however, as Isaac has reported her as AWOL since she left the FOB. Abby is handcuffed and left to await the group's return. Before this can happen, she gets rescued by Nora, who in turn gives her an idea of where to find the medical supplies she needs.
You find no one at the aquarium? I talked to Manny.
I need some medical supplies.
Why? What happened to him?
Compartment syndrome. Bashed forearm.
You're not treating him, are you?
Mel. We don't have a lot of time.
Jesus. Most of these supplies have been packed and shipped already.
What?
We haven't cleared out the lower floors yet.
Would they have what I need?
Yeah, probably, but it's rough down there.
I'll be fine.
If you remember the hospital from Ellie's day 2, and you remember the spore-infected area she kills Nora in, you probably realize that you're going to be traveling back down there. This should put a pit in your stomach.
All right. These floors have the ICU, the trauma center, and a few surgical suites.
Sounds perfect.
There's a reason we haven't touched this area yet. It was ground zero for the whole city, where they brought the first infected before anyone knew better. It's gonna be overgrown to shit.
Ground Zero is where Part 2 fully embraces horror, and in a slow burn fashion. Notes can be found that paint a picture of what happened within this sealed section of the hospital. Eventually, both the doctors and military soldiers were overwhelmed by the infected patients. They attempted to create multiple checkpoints and retake these areas with reinforcements, but were unsuccessful. There's a note from a patient who describes the environment he's in, locked in a room surrounded by screaming before his own writing becomes incoherent due to infection. The patients were being lied to about the infection, and doctors weren't allowed to leave because the military didn't want word getting out about the severity of the situation. We see at the very beginning of this section of the hospital the last holdout, doctors and government soldiers attempting to barricade themselves from the infected. Many of the bodies you find in this area are dead from self-inflicted bullet wounds rather than bites. The tension reaches a new threshold when Abby attempts to open the door to the trauma center.
Fuck is that?
What the fuck is that is exactly right. Nothing you have ever seen in either part 1 or 2 has sounded like that. Despite this interaction and the notes, you don't actually see any infected until entering into the surgery suite, and even then it's just a few regular clickers. This adds to the uneasiness. The surgery suites let Abby turn the power back on, but when she returns to the main area, she sees that the trauma wing doors have been ripped open and a trail of blood leads towards the ambulance garage. Within the trauma wing, we can see that there's massive fungal growth with the twisted bodies of infected patients all pretzeled together. A lone ambulance remains in the garage, and luckily it contains a first aid kit with everything Abby needs. Unluckily, it leads to this.
Thank God. Get ready to celebrate.
This is the Rat King. The scene transitions into you running through hospital hallways as this horrific creature chases you. It eventually catches Abby and picks her up, leading to button prompts to hack at the creature with an axe. It would have been so easy yet still great for the developers to have this whole encounter operate like this, chase scenes and QuickTime events. It would still be intense. But no, they do something even scarier and make you straight up fight the Rat King as a boss. The original game has only 2 boss fights in my opinion, an infected with the bloater in Lincoln, Nebraska, and then a human with David in the Winter chapter. Both are excellent, although I think David is better because of how unique the encounter is. I appreciate then that with part 2, the developers clearly looked for ways to include more bosses while still making them unique and make sense. In my opinion, the game has 3. The Rat King here, the Ellie boss fight in the theater, and then the Tommy sniper encounter that Abby Day 3 starts with. With the Rat King, it's a clever way to introduce a new infected without just having a new stage of the cordyceps evolution. The grotesque lumbering mass is many regular infected that have been fused together through time and close proximity. Notes found in the hospital indicate that patients were just being locked in rooms, including the trauma center, once doctors realized there was no way to treat the infection. After it bursts out of the trauma center, you can still see much of the disgusting mass that it was housed with. The Rat King was created due to specific circumstances rather than some sort of mega evolution. The boss fight is intense but doesn't involve much more than running around the arena and shooting the creature. This is much better on higher difficulties where you actually need to scavenge for resources during the fight, making it feel scarier. After dealing enough damage to it, one of the stalkers that's part of the mass actually tears itself off and becomes a second infected in the arena. The stalker can't be killed during the fight, however, because it's scripted to escape once you kill the main body.
Great.
It attacks you shortly after for what's sort of a part 3 of the fight, as it's more armored than a regular stalker and takes many more hits to kill. This is all excellent. After killing the little shitter, Abby is able to escape the hospital through the garage. Lev happens to conveniently be right there, as is a motorboat, so they're able to immediately leave the area for the aquarium. This is understandable from a game structure standpoint. Players have been through a lot this chapter and are just coming off of a nightmare sequence, so having a long return journey back to the aquarium would be exhausting. Also, the game is already probably too long as it is, so because of these factors, the convenience here is something I'm willing to accept, even if it's a bit silly. Abby and Lev then return with the supplies, and Mel is able to successfully perform the surgery to remove Yara's arm. We get the conversation I showed a bit earlier between Abby and Owen.
What happened to us?
Maybe we stopped looking for the light.
And we finally get Abby's final dream sequence, where it shows her father happy. Both of these indicate that Abby has begun to find peace in a way that achieving her revenge didn't bring her. This is good. Abby is beginning to find peace, but at the same time isn't yet aware of the destruction that her prior revenge has set in motion around her. Ellie and Tommy aren't even on her radar, but soon will be. Her past violence will upset her current peace, just like it did for Joel. Again, this is Shakespearean. Day 3 opens with the argument between Abby and Mel that I spoke about earlier.
I haven't always done the right thing.
You're a piece of shit, Abby.
Abby has begun to see the Wolves and the whole conflict they are involved in for what it truly is, and similar to Owen, she is now questioning her own involvement. The Wolves were originally a means to an end for Abby, to get her ready for Joel. Violence was encouraged. Her disillusionment with Isaac and the Wolves is a direct consequence of her inner journey to find peace, which she discovered was not achieved after confronting Joel. In this way, Mel is wrong in her suspicions of Abby's motive. She really is changing, and it's not an act. Owen recognizes that Abby is returning to the person she was prior to her father's murder, and Mel recognizes that he recognizes this. From Mel's perspective, it'd be incredibly frustrating to see the man she's pregnant with openly sympathizing with his ex-girlfriend. Mel feels betrayed, and like Owen's connection to Abby is preventing him from being present for her and their unborn child. Also, not to mention the emotional trauma that everyone in their group has after the events of Joel's murder, something that has only pushed Owen further away from Mel and now seemingly once again towards Abby. This is never more clear than when shortly after this conversation, Owen offers to go with Abby to the Seraphite Island.
Owen?
They're heading to the fucking island.
Exactly.
I'm not gonna let her go by herself.
Actually, you are.
The central conflict of Abby Day 3 comes from Lev, who doesn't want to leave Seattle without his and Yara's mother, fearing that she'll suffer the consequences for their actions. This prompts him to take the only boat available at the aquarium to return to the Seraphites' home island, which in turn forces Abby and Yara to the Seattle marina to find a boat of their own in order to follow. Owen stays at the aquarium with Mel in order to finish working on the sailboat that's been docked in the outdoor exhibit area for the last 3 years. His plan is for them to use it to sail down to Santa Barbara to search for the fireflies. Owen ultimately does finish the repairs, but as we know, he is killed along with Mel later on by Ellie. Day 3 is set in 2 areas, each reflecting one of Abby's choices. The first, which is the marina, represents the direct consequences of her past decision to kill Joel. The second, the Seraphite Island, reflects her current decision to save Lev and Yara and is about illustrating how Abby has changed by placing her in the middle of the conflict between the Wolves and the Seraphites. The marina is exceptional and builds much in the same way Hillcrest does. Abby and Yara hear rifle shots as they approach, leading Abby to go in alone. She is quickly found by Manny and learns there's a sniper in the area.
Get down!
Abby, what the fuck?
Manny?
You by yourself?
Yeah.
Shit. This sniper's a fucking bro.
What are you doing out here?
The boats. We were supposed to hit the island tonight. Then this pendejo showed up.
Abby doesn't know it yet, but this is Tommy. The marina, in my opinion, functions like a boss fight, with multiple stages and its own unique mechanic. In the beginning, Tommy is positioned on the bridge walkway in the distance, and the game utilizes a bright blue lens flare effect to represent his aiming. It's supposed to be a light reflecting off of his rifle scope, I believe. When you see it, it means he is aiming, and if you don't break the line of sight via cover, he'll shoot you. The first phase has you moving from cover to cover along the street towards him and the marina. The second phase sees Abby and Manny going through a parking garage towards the sniper. The first time playing, players might not have made the connection that this is Tommy. I know I didn't. The parking garage cleverly gives us our first hint when the sniper uses the technique Tommy taught Ellie, shooting metal to draw out infected, against Abby and Manny. This is an excellent escalation of the encounter, having to fight and dodge infected while still attempting to stay out of the sight of the sniper. It starts with just runners, then adds a clicker to the mix on the next floor, and then finally a shambler, utilizing its area of effect acidic spores to force player movement out of cover and potentially into the sniper's sights. The final phase is a chase through the marina cruise station, with Tommy firing shots as he retreats. Abby and Manny corner the mysterious sniper, but they're surprised themselves when he doubles back.
Screw it. Let's just...
Abby is only able to escape because of Yara's intervention.
You all right? Abby? Yeah. You... Yeah. Who was that? Shit. It doesn't matter. Let's get Lev and get back to the aquarium.
Abby recognizes who Tommy is in this encounter. Putting two and two together, she realizes that her choice to kill Joel is what caused this. Manny is the first of her friends' death that Abby is aware of, and this scene is the moment her revenge comes full circle for her. A member of her own inner circle has now paid the price for her revenge. This entire segment also expertly pays off the earlier emphasis on Tommy's brutal history with the Fireflies. We see the methodical, ruthless hunter that he was, and it feels authentic and terrifying. It also fully realizes the sniper sequence from the first game. In part 1, Joel and Ellie are ambushed by a sniper in the suburbs outside of Pittsburgh. Joel uses backyards and other houses as cover in order to move up the street and confront the shooter. While still great in its own way, the focus there is still largely on fighting the hunters on the street rather than dealing with the sniper. Here in Part 2's version of this encounter, it's focused on the threat of the sniper himself. After securing a boat from the marina, Abby and Yara quietly arrive on the Seraphite Island ahead of Isaac's planned attack. However, the community is quickly alerted and begins preparing for war.
This is bad.
Abby and Yara manage to locate Lev, finding him at his and Yara's home alongside the body of their mother. Lev was forced to defend himself from her once she began attacking. The point of this scene is to show how entrenched the Scars, as well as the Wolves, are in their beliefs. Lev's mother is so consumed by her religion that she is willing to attack, either to kill or at the very least turn in, her own child for daring to go against the community's traditions. Lev naively thought that just communicating with their mother would be enough to convince her, but it obviously wasn't. We see that the WLF are just as entrenched in their beliefs, if not more so shortly after this. While navigating towards the Seraphite capital city Haven, Abby, Lev, and Yara are discovered by wolves, leading to Yara being shot as well as Isaac's second and final appearance.
Come on! I can't leave her here! Stay back! Drop it! Now!
Holy shit.
It's Abby! Stay back!
Stand down.
Isaac.
What the hell are you doing?
I need you to hear me out.
What's that behind you?
He saved my life.
Move out of the way. We'll deal with you back home.
He's not one of them, please.
Abby, move.
God damn it, he's just a kid!
You have 3 seconds to get away from that scar. 1.
You really gonna shoot me?
2.
I'm not fucking moving.
No! What the fuck?
Both Isaac and Yara are now dead, and we get this exchange.
Lev, we need to move. She's gone. Oh my god, she's gone. Lev, come on. Those were your fucking people. You're my people.
My feelings on this statement is deeply tied to my feelings on Isaac, namely that both feel rushed. Isaac thematically represents the endpoint of the WLF ideology. He's so consumed by tribalism that he is willing to shoot children and commit genocide in a post-apocalypse. He represents what Abby could have become if she had never found empathy, and it feels like a missed opportunity that the game doesn't fully explore this by having more interactions between the characters. Isaac feels like he belongs in a different version of Part 2 because the game as it is needs to lead back to Ellie and her revenge. It's not able to have a more in-depth plot involving Isaac, which leads to him just being killed off without really ever being used. Now, with the "You're my people" moment, the scene is powerful but doesn't feel earned at this point in the game. To be clear, my criticism is not that Abby changes, but rather that the game's pacing unfortunately causes this change to feel rushed. Abby very quickly swaps sides after having been with the WLF for 3 years, and after only knowing Lev and Yara for 3 days. Much of the narrative work for Abby's change is already there and well done, it just feels compressed. As it is, it's focused a lot on her friends, Manny dying and then Owen and Mel tentatively leaving, but what's missing for me is further escalation with Isaac and the wolves. I actually think this moment, seeing Isaac in the forest, would have worked better at the end of the island. After seeing Haven burning as the result of this endless conflict, Abby fully abandons the organization. Alternatively, and my preference would have been to expand Isaac's role and presence through an additional day in Seattle, likely between the current day 2 and 3. Perhaps after Yara's operation, Abby leaves the aquarium to find Isaac and explain herself. She wants to repair that relationship as well as try and talk him out of the attack on the Seraphite Island. This obviously wouldn't go as planned. Isaac could send forces after her and it would lead to Abby needing to escape pursuit. It could be focused on her own reactions to now having killed wolves and her further disillusionment with the organization. She would arrive back at the aquarium, ready to leave, only to find Lev stealing the boat just as before. Additionally, having the conversation with Mel here enhances Abby's conflict because it would mean that she is done with the wolves but doesn't have a clear path forward with Mel and Owen. I recognize that adding an extra day isn't realistic as the game is long enough as it is, but I just wanted to throw an idea out there. All this being said, I like Yara's death as it forces Abby to unequivocally choose her path, either go back to the wolves or commit to Lev. Yara's death also feels frustrating. You spent the entirety of day 2 getting the necessary medical items to save her, only for her to die in a different way the next day. For me personally, though, this was a good frustration, and it worked to illustrate how pointless violence can feel in this world. The rest of the escape from the island is fantastic. From pitting Abby against a squad of wolves, to being dropped on the sidelines of a Seraphite and WLF shootout, to a scripted horseback sequence through a war zone.
I see Abby!
Let her go!
This all builds to Haven, where you work your way towards the docks to find a boat, fighting through both wolves and Seraphites to do it. These encounters are visually incredible, with the environments cast in a warm orange hue as the city burns around you. It's a great color contrast to earlier on the island, with the green and browns of the lumber mill and farming fields. Abby also has another violent close quarters fight against a large Seraphite brute. The chapter ends as Abby and Lev run beneath the docks looking for a boat while witnessing the horrors of the fight above them. They find an intact rowboat and manage to escape amidst the chaos. They arrive back at the aquarium only to find Owen and Mel and Alice the dog all dead. Using the Seattle map Ellie left behind, Abby and Lev find their way to the Pinnacle Theater. Similar to other times I've mentioned it, it's unclear how they are able to move through the destroyed and dangerous city so quickly, and I'm only drawing attention to it here because the game makes so much effort in its gameplay to illustrate how long these trips take. Naughty Dog will typically start a chapter with showing us some landmark in the distance, and then we slowly work our way there.
What if Owen's somewhere else?
He's there. Is that Haven?
Yeah. What's left of it.
Lev, where are the boats?
On the docks. Past the fires.
There's the hospital. Fuck. Thought I'd be closer.
I want to be clear that I am almost always willing to overlook these criticisms because I understand that it's a necessary evil for storytelling and pacing, but it's still something I wanted to mention. I'm obligated to point out things like this in order to give viewers like you a chance to tell me that I'm nitpicking. This brings us finally back to the convergence point.
You're making a big mistake.
Don't fucking turn around. Lev, keep your bow on him. Get on the ground.
You gonna kill me like a coward?
You fucking people. We let you both live. And you wasted it.
Wait! Get off of her! Stop me!
Come on.
Just like the Rat King improved on Part 1's bloater fight, and the Tommy segment improved on Part 1's sniper encounter, Ellie's fight is an evolution of the David fight from Part 1. In that, players, as Ellie, were locked in a burning restaurant and needed to sneakily outmaneuver the character David, who was searching for them. There were broken plates that would crunch if you stepped on them, alerting him to your general location. If he saw you, he would chase and hack at you with a machete. It was a great fight. Here, Naughty Dog repeats this type of encounter but further develops it, making Ellie hunt Abby. An important note is that Abby was forced to leave her backpack and weapons behind while escaping a burning building on the island, and so only had her handgun at the theater. Ellie then picks it up during that first struggle, meaning you are limited to sneaking and punching. The fight has 3 phases that, despite Reddit urban legend, are not based on how you played as Ellie, and instead always follow a pattern. However, it should be a testament to the developers that many people are convinced the fight uses AI that mimics their gameplay behavior. The developers made it feel like you are fighting yourself in a way I have never experienced before in a game, taking advantage of all of Ellie's tools. In Phase 1, she walks around with a pistol. In Phase 2, she uses her shotgun, Molotovs, and can sneak around herself.
Shit!
The final phase sees her using her bow, machete, Molotovs, as well as laying trap mines around the arena.
What the hell is she doing?
She also now exclusively sneaks herself, sometimes just sitting and watching for you. In order to advance the fight, you must sneak up on Ellie and initiate a strike. After getting to her a 3rd time, Abby beats the shit out of her. Dina gets involved, Lev gets involved, Abby almost kills Dina but stops when Lev says something. I've already gone through narratively where this sequence leaves Ellie, so let's now look at it with the Abby lens. Her journey is about the cost of revenge. She has lost her friends, Manny, Owen, and Mel. She's lost her community in the WLF and lost her humanity. She once again wants revenge, this time against Ellie. When it's revealed Dina is pregnant, Abby says good as she's about to kill her because it's an eye for an eye since Ellie killed Mel. Abby only stops because of Lev, who in this instance is a mirror. Abby isn't perfect. She nearly gets sucked back into the cycle of grief, trauma, and vengeance here, but she doesn't. It's about wanting to be better and to change. Lev represents this. Killing Ellie here in the final moment wouldn't bring any of what Abby lost back. In fact, it could continue to make things worse, just like her choices in Jackson did. So she spares Ellie's life a 2nd time, choosing to turn away from vengeance, something she was unable to do with Joel. In my opinion, the end of Abby Day 3 is the ultimate test of the game's core narrative premise. It's directly asking you, after all this, can you see Abby as a person, not a villain? For me, it was a yes. It didn't matter that I didn't like her friends outside of Owen, or that I was still sad about Joel's death. By forcing me to experience her losses and journey for a new purpose, the game successfully made me empathize with Abby and forgive her for killing Joel. This is where I imagine most people were left at the end of Abby's 3rd day, which is important for what comes after. With this last section, I'm going to try and do something that Part 2 doesn't, finish somewhat quickly. This gets to the heart of my biggest criticism of the game's ending/epilogue, but also brings us to something that I feel quite conflicted about, the length of this final chapter. I do think the game is too long, however, I also don't think the end of Seattle Day 3 would have been a good ending for Ellie. At that point, she hasn't chosen to move on yet. She got beat. It was traumatic, but that anger is still there, even if only in the back of her mind. There are two different parts in the epilogue that could have served as an ending spot. First on the farm right after Ellie has her PTSD attack in the barn, or when she decides to leave the farm because she can't let go of her desire for revenge against Abby. Both of these would follow up on the trauma and anger that she is still carrying, but having said that, I think ending at either of these spots would have required a third game to follow what happened with Ellie and to finish her story arc. Ending at either of these spots on the farm and then not giving us a part 3 would have meant Ellie's story arc was incomplete because she hasn't reached a place of forgiving Abby, Joel, and most importantly, herself. We pick up about a year to a year and a half after Seattle Day 3 at a farm outside of Jackson. This is just my estimate of the time jump given that Dina has given birth and JJ, her baby, looks about 1 year old. The relative peace and quiet they have is shown not to be as stable as it first appears. Ellie is seen at the beginning of this chapter quietly holding Joel's watch, and soon after she suffers a PTSD flashback while herding sheep with JJ.
Ellie, look at me. It's okay. You're home. You're home. Breathe. Okay, I'm gonna take him, okay? Come on. Come here.
She is clearly still traumatized by Joel's death and still carries guilt over it, which then gets needled when Tommy comes to visit.
Hey, Tommy.
There you are.
Here, let me take him. Come here, bud. Oh, yeah.
Go.
Here.
Oh, I got it.
Hey.
Hey.
It's good to see you.
You too. He's getting heavy.
No, he's just a big ball of muscle.
Town's good? Maria good?
Oh, she's fine. We're taking some time apart.
Sorry.
Nah. We talked about it a lot, and, yeah, it's what we both want, so. Okay. Oh, come sit. I got something to show you. So I've been putting out feelers for months now. And this new guy heard my story. He told me about a woman that he traded with while he was moving through California. Described her as built like an ox, traveling with a kid with scars across his face. He said they're living along this coast in a beach sailboat right here. That's gotta be her.
We're done with that, Sarah.
I'm sorry.
Well, I can't go.
I know.
All right. Reckon it's easy. Forget about her. You sitting all comfy way out here?
Hey.
I'll make her pay.
Tommy.
That's what you said when we got back to Jackson.
Tommy.
What a joke.
The first time seeing this scene, I was pissed at Tommy. I didn't want Ellie to be dragged back onto the path of revenge. Having played part 2 several times now, I actually feel for Tommy. Similar to Ellie, the revenge tour to Seattle had a heavy cost on him. Physically, he gets shot in the leg and face, specifically though the right side of his face, leaving him blind in that eye and now likely unable to use his sniper rifle. Emotionally, he states that Maria and him are taking time apart, which is likely because he broke her trust by leaving to Seattle in the first place. This is on top of him being obsessed with finding Abby and getting revenge not just for his brother, but for himself now too. He talks about her to anyone who will listen, especially travelers, because he's looking for leads. He made Ellie promise once they got back to Jackson that she'd make Abby pay. Tommy has become a shell of his former self and has nothing left except his revenge. It's quite sad. I have one criticism here about Tommy and just the transition between Abby Day 3 and the farm here, which is how did these characters get back to Jackson? Or just simply survive after the encounter with Abby at the theater. Ellie is beat up and has a broken arm. Dina is also beat up as well as sick and still pregnant. Tommy is shot both in the leg and head, which likely would have killed him unless he received immediate medical attention. It's also unclear if Jesse's body is left in Seattle or taken back to Jackson with them. Seattle, Washington to Jackson, Wyoming is roughly 900 miles, and both Tommy and Ellie's horses are dead. On foot, it's likely 2 weeks, although I'd say it takes longer given that everyone is injured. I don't need to see or play this grueling journey back, but I'd have liked a journal entry or something that at least attempts to fill in some of the details, even if they're vague. For a game that is so grounded in its details, which I've consistently praised throughout this video, it's wild that this return journey is just completely glossed over. I do want to say, however, that I'm glad Tommy lives. The writers effectively killed his character without actually killing him, which is excellent and reminds me of Jaime Lannister in Game of Thrones. After that visit from Tommy, we get the first half of the flashback to the dance in Jackson, the one that occurred the night prior to Joel's death. In it, we finally see what happened between Ellie and Joel there.
The fuck did you just say? Ellie,
Hey!
Ellie, don't.
Get the hell out of here.
Get your hands off me.
Hey!
Enough. Go on, you. Let's go for a walk.
What about them?
You worry about yourself.
Let's get you some fresh air.
You all right, kiddo?
What is wrong with you?
He had no right.
And you do? I don't need your fucking help, Joel.
Right.
I think most people will fill in the blank that the pair's next time seeing each other is where Joel dies. That Ellie feels bad that this is how she left things with Joel, and that this is what fueled her revenge quest. This is only partially correct, because there's still a piece from that night that we're missing. With the information from Tommy, Ellie abandons her life at the farm with Dina and JJ in pursuit of Abby once again.
We've got a family. She doesn't get to be more important than that. I'm not gonna do this again.
That's up to you.
The game then transitions to Santa Barbara, first with a brief Abby and Lev section as they follow a lead on the Fireflies location. Searching a residential neighborhood, the pair find a hidden outpost in a basement and manage to get in contact with the Fireflies.
We pulled everyone back from the satellite stations and brought them back here to home base.
How many of you are there?
We're about 200 strong now, with a few more every month.
Owen was right.
You're about to get 2 more. How do we find you?
Get to Catalina Island.
They are taken by surprise and ambushed immediately afterwards by individuals from a group known as the Rattlers, which are a slaver community that operates in the Santa Barbara area. It's weird that Abby and Lev aren't aware of this group given that they've been traveling in the area for a while, have traded with other travelers, and can find a note that references them inside of one of the houses on this street. From everything we see, the Rattlers should clearly be a known presence, yet somehow Abby has never heard of them. She doesn't recognize their graffiti sigil on the street even. The pair are captured, and we jump to several months later as Ellie arrives in Santa Barbara herself. She finds the sailboat, finds the same address, and finds the Rattlers.
Come on.
Get up.
We don't need
No,
this.
man, she's fucked up anyway, man. Come on. Yeah, it's funny, right? It's funny.
Are you serious?
Come on. Laugh.
Oh, God damn it! Wait. You said Abby. You're looking for an Abby, right? We picked one up a couple months ago.
Yeah, sure.
Oh, no, big girl. Blonde. Arms like mine. She had a scrawny kid with cuts by his mouth.
Ellie gets stabbed here in a snare trap, which seems like a big deal, but isn't really. It's just used as a way to balance her physically to Abby, who we'll see is weaker after being enslaved for these several months. The whole Santa Barbara chapter is combat heavy, first with Ellie moving through the neighborhood fighting infected, and now in the rail yard and resort that the Rattlers use as a compound. It's great. The visuals, architecture, and foliage are unique and vastly different from Seattle's. The Rattlers, as I've mentioned, wear armor and keep infected on leashes, which differentiate them enough from the previous human enemies to offer some variety here. Thematically, they represent the most extreme form of tribalism, where those not in the in-group are actually taken as slaves. We get Ellie's special weapon, the silenced submachine gun, which feels great. The final encounter at the resort is the natural culmination to human combat. It's a big, multi-story building with many enemies initially present and reinforcements that show up as you approach the end. Ellie learns that Abby was taken down to the beach after attempting to escape. Among the many tied-up bodies, she finds Abby, still alive. Ellie cuts Abby down, allows her to cut Lev down, and silently walks with her to the docked boats. She almost seems prepared to let Abby just walk away, but after getting a flash of Joel's bloody face, Ellie demands Abby fight her, to which Abby reluctantly agrees to once Ellie threatens Lev. The fight between them is an unpleasant and ugly struggle to watch. It's meant to circle back into emotional exhaustion for Ellie and Abby as well as us. Both are injured during the fight. Ellie has 2 of her fingers bitten off and Abby is stabbed multiple times. Ellie gets the upper hand, but in the final moments of drowning Abby, briefly sees a different memory of Joel that prompts her to let Abby go. Ellie is left crying in the ocean as Abby's boat fades into the fog. We pick up sometime later back at the farm as Ellie. Dina and JJ are gone, but all of Ellie's things remain behind in one of the rooms. She attempts to play Future Days but has difficulty now due to her missing fingers. We then get the second half of the Jackson flashback. After the dance, Ellie finds Joel on his porch and the two talk.
I'm not trying to.
I was supposed to die in that hospital. My life would have fucking mattered. But you took that from me.
If
somehow the Lord gave me a second chance at that moment, I would do it all over again.
Yeah. I don't think I can ever forgive you for that. But I would like to try.
I'd like that.
Okay.
With that single scene, Ellie's journey over the course of the game is recontextualized. Throughout the game, Ellie's driving force appeared to be that she wanted revenge against Abby for killing Joel. But this scene reveals that she wasn't just angry about Joel's death, but also about her own inability to forgive him in time. In the porch conversation, Joel says that if given the chance, he would save Ellie all over again at the hospital, even knowing that he would lose his relationship with her. He doesn't regret his choice. Joel's point is that Ellie's life matters outside of her immunity, even if she doesn't think so. It's this statement that makes Ellie open to reconnecting with him. Ellie remembers this conversation during that final fight with Abby because she realizes that killing Abby won't resolve this because her revenge was never truly about Abby, but rather her own unresolved grief. This final epilogue at the farm shows that by finally letting go of her grudge and the anger at herself for not forgiving Joel sooner, Ellie finds peace, even if it has come at the cost of everything else she once had. For me, The Last of Us Part 2 wasn't just a story about vengeance. It has meaningful things to say about grief, trauma, forgiveness, love, perspectives, purpose, and of course, violence. It's unfortunate that so much of the conversation around the game when it released had nothing to do with any of these and instead was just focused on Abby's arm muscles. It would have been so easy for Naughty Dog to just give us another game of Joel and Ellie adventures. It likely would have been received well and been quite profitable. Instead of playing it safe, however, they tried something different, which I'm personally thankful for because Part 2 is unlike any other game I've played, and my hope is that this video has done a good enough job of explaining why. Thanks for watching. As a favor to me, please consider sharing the video with people you think might also enjoy it. And the next big video should be on Liza P. Take care.